Part 85. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 844. In fact, Chang Chun discovered it when Ayanamai picked up the naval gun. Despite Ayanamai's menacing appearance, we were all sisters of the guarding mansion, and we had no idea that the other party would attack us, so we were severely beaten at that time. Sugu naturally saw Lingbo's movements. When the girl raised her hand, he immediately guessed what she wanted to do. However, I don't dare to block it for Chang Chun, even if it can greatly increase my favor. I am also helpless, I have no choice, I am just an ordinary person. Even if the ship girl is hit hard, as long as the power from the ship is not really used, she will not be injured. At most, she will be dizzy. But if he eats it like this, his arm will definitely die. There is no need to say that the fracture will be comminuted, and it may be more serious. Ayanbo, why are you hitting someone? Chang Chun put his head in his hands, covering the place where he was hit, and was confused. Ayanamai didn't answer at all, but she didn't continue to attack. I just got angry all of a sudden, but quickly calmed down. She put away her ship's uniform and walked away without saying a word. She didn't even think of fighting back against Ayanamai. Chang Chun was still confused. She looked at Ayanamai's leaving figure and watched Ayanamai walk to Shikinamai's side. While the two sisters were talking in low voices, she turned to look at Sugu. Admiral, she hit me, Ayanamai, hit me. I saw it. Sugu could feel how angry Lingbo was. Looking at Chang Chun's appearance, she was not hurt at all. Thinking about what she had done, you really deserve it? If you win the exercise, you will win. If you win, you will win. What should I say? It's useless to be angry in this game, is it so sarcastic? Doesn't this deserve a beating? Chang Chun realized what she had done, and she defended in a low voice, I didn't tell her. But she heard it? Even so, she can't hit people. After thinking about it, Chang Chun couldn't understand it anyway. He usually practiced with everyone. If the other party was an aircraft carrier, he would still lose. He was also laughed at. This is you beyond visual distance, or something, but I have never been angry. Even if he was angry, he would not hit anyone, so he muttered in a low voice, I will never play with her again, I can't afford to lose. Win with a smile, lose with MMP. Don't say rude words. Sugu touched Chang Chun's head and thought to himself that he usually plays chess with everyone, especially when playing chess. Even if the general wins, he has to kill all of them except the general and the handsome man. Eat all the chess pieces, and then laugh hard. Of course, you still need to keep a certain level of control so that people won't really get angry, and treat different people differently. Even so, he was beaten several times by them carrying pillows. Of course, I have also been laughed at and then beaten. Sorry. Ayanamai quickly came back, feeling that she had gone too far. Naturally, she could tell that what Chang Chun just said was not a mockery of her specifically, or it was contempt or ridicule. Even if this is the case, it is his own fault. After all, he took the initiative to ask for the drill. He wanted to teach the other party a lesson, but he did not expect to suffer a disastrous defeat. He had no backhand power at all, so he had to admit defeat. Why did you hit me? Chang Chun was obsessed with this point. It's nothing. Lingbo couldn't say the real reason. When she saw the ring on Chang Chun's finger, she felt unhappy again. It's inexplicable. Chang Chun rubbed his head, it hurt so much. Ayanamai paused, sorry. Apologizing is useful, so why do you need the police? I'm going to beat you too. Chang Chun chuckled, and just raised his hand to hit Lingbo on the head. Forget it, adults don't remember villains' mistakes. What's Lingbo apologizing for? Because Chang Chun didn't really cause any harm, Lingbo took the initiative to apologize again. Sugu still stood by Lingbo. Obviously it's Chang Chun who can't speak, so she should apologize. Chang Chun became unhappy, the admiral was partial, and I was beaten. Well, hello, may I ask, what kind of ship girl is she? At this time, a voice suddenly rang. Sugu turned around and saw that the two girls who were practicing at sea had walked up to him at some point. The two were originally practicing at sea, but it was not a real battle. They had not yet reached a place where their minds were not distracted. Naturally, they saw Chang Chun's ship uniform and did not recognize it at all. In particular, the missiles were of particular concern. They were a very special attack that I thought I could not resist, but I couldn't tell how powerful they were during the drill. After all, don't reload the ammunition, otherwise you will be injured. Sugu didn't speak. Chang Chun had forgotten about Lingbo. She put her hands on her hips and said, "Missile destroyer, I am the guided missile destroyer Chang Chun. I think I've heard of it." Sugu remembered that Chang Chun had been interviewed in the past, and it had appeared in newspapers and magazines as a guided missile destroyer. He had introduced it in detail, including its parameters, attack methods, and combat effectiveness. Then Chang Chun also collected these newspapers and magazines and showed them off from time to time. Although those newspapers and magazines are only published in one's own area of the sea, any news about the admiral and shipgirl circles can be circulated fairly well. After being pestered by the two girls asking questions for a while, it was already evening when everyone left. As the sun began to set, Chang Chun shouted, "I'm hungry." Sugu asked for everyone's opinions, eat in the cafeteria or go out. Ayanamai said, "Just in the cafeteria, Fuzu, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about the one we just saw. She works in the cafeteria, and the food she makes is delicious. It's definitely not as good as Sister Yuxi, and Chang Chun is just like a child and likes to compare." Walking back and walking down the embankment, Ayanamai watched the glow fall on the roof of the cafeteria. She didn't know that this was the beginning of her nightmare. Even though they were not the admiral or shipgirl from the nearby garrison, nor were they working here, there was no problem with Ayanamai leading the way, and everyone entered the cafeteria easily. The canteen here also takes the form of a buffet, with a long table with a variety of food and drinks. That must be Akagi's. Sugu was eating fried pork chop when he saw a black-haired girl walking by. Her plate was filled with food, including a mountain of curry rice, fried shrimp, and cola. Pie or something. Although the appearance is completely different, and even the temperament is completely different. The other party has a sharp temperament and a tightly pursed lips. It can be said that it is completely different from his own Akagi, but his foodie attribute is quite prominent. Ayanamai replied, "Yes, even Akagi is still our eldest sister. Although I don't want to admit it, she is much more powerful than Akagi in our garrison. To be able to become the head of a shipgirl branch, and such a big shipgirl branch, is naturally quite powerful." Sugu thought about it again and laughed, "But we, Sheik Hung, will never lose to her when it comes to eating. That's the Monkaze." Sugu followed Lingbo's gaze and saw a little girl standing among a large group of Lolita. She looked quite childish, wearing a big t-shirt and shorts, and was standing on tiptoe to get a cake. He coughed and said calmly, "Fu Bigxiu, isn't Feng Feng your friend? Why don't you call your friend over and sit with us? I just know her." "I'm not familiar with her," Fubuki said, "I just helped her catch a few dragonflies by the pond." Chang Chun held a large bowl of ramen. Halfway through the meal, he took off the ring on his hand in disgust and gave it back to Sugu. "Admiral, I gave you the ring back. It's so big. It's not a game. A ring of oath can be given to anyone, from a young submarine girl to a battleship eldest sister, regardless of the thickness of her fingers. Now there is a size. It is obvious that Chang Chun is just a girl, and her fingers are undoubtedly too slender. Therefore, it is said that people are easily forgetful, so this topic should be avoided even though Ayanamai is around." Sugu thought to himself, "I was still thinking about you wearing it all the time and not returning it. When I got to the town hall, I had an extra wedding ring. This is a ring, how can I just say I don't want it? Although I can't wear it now, I will definitely wear it in the future. You can wear it? Didn't you agree that Changchun will marry the admiral when he grows up? Doesn't Changchun like the admiral? I like the admiral. Changchun swung his legs, I like the admiral the most. Sugu put away the ring, put it in his pocket, and joked, the admiral is my first favorite, who is my second favorite? The second one is of course Sister Yuxian, Changchun said, the third one is Sister Chungqing, the fourth one is Sister Kirov, the fifth one is. Changchun was still talking, but Sugu stopped listening. He sighed and thought, it turns out that this kind of liking is really boring. Changchun suddenly said, Admiral, let me tell you secretly, Sister Yuxian likes you. I know. Do you like her? Changchun asked, Sister Yuxian. Sugu didn't say anything, thinking about Yuxian, of course he likes it. Gentle and virtuous, versatile, not to mention cooking, she can also play the guhan, pipa, poetry and songs, and can even farm. Although a lot has changed, the temperament of a married woman and a widow has not disappeared. Combined with the tear mole at the corner of her eye, it is particularly attractive. It's summer now, and I wear a cheongsam every day. The long legs under the high-cut cheongsam are simply ruthless and difficult to control. When she left the town hall, she was wearing a gauze-like tang suit and holding a round fan. She couldn't be more beautiful. The admiral must also like Sister Yuxian, she is so beautiful, so gentle, the best, so why don't you get married? Changchun is a soft-spoken person who cannibalize others, otherwise, let me be the matchmaker, bow Admiral the great matchmaker with Sister Yuxian. Just give the ring to Sister Yuxian just now. I can't wear it, but she will definitely be able to wear it. Sugu had to admit that he was a little tempted and wanted to marry Yuxian for a long time. After all, he was a fisherman, but he had been lacking an opportunity, so he didn't get married. Now, I am willing to sacrifice my life to bring down the emperor. Changchun really has no moral integrity. Seeing Sugu not saying anything, he said, otherwise, Sister Chungqing will like you too. The admiral should marry Sister Fuzu. Fubuki interrupted at this time, she also likes you very much. Fubuki, Fuzu was a little shy, but did not deny it. Sugu glanced at Fuzang and looked away. He still remembers that scene. The ground was covered with cherry blossoms in a pale pink color. Fuzu walked over in a cherry-colored kimono among the slowly dancing cherry blossoms. It was love at first sight. Although it's just a satellite, a change of clothes, and calling a wife. CV-16 one day wore a shirt, a vest, and glasses, dressed like a detective and wanted to call her wife. Bang. I'm done eating. Ayanamai put down the bowl and chopsticks at this time, stood up, and walked out of the cafeteria without saying a word. The surroundings suddenly became quiet. After dinner, I passed by the store again and of course bought a large bag of snacks. In addition, there were a few decks of cards and shogi. Ayanamai, keep coming to play. The more people there are, the more fun it is. Fuzu, you are such unfortunate sisters. Let me see, it would be better to have one, or this one. Admiral, if you lose, let me shoot your forehead. Changchun, you are trying too hard. While playing the ghost card, Consultant Su asked where everyone should sleep at night. Ayanamai thought for a while, she definitely couldn't live here, there was only one room and one living room, there were too many people. You can't sleep on the floor. At the very least, you can lay down a quilt and then a straw mat, but I don't have anything here. After some discussion, Ayanamai and Shikinami stayed at home, while the others went to stay in a guest house. The specific arrangements have not yet been decided. Changchun first shouted, I want to sleep with the admiral. Sugu coughed. Changchun continued, I want to sleep with the Admiral in my arms, just like yesterday. As soon as Changchun finished speaking, Sugu looked around and saw everyone looking at him with strange eyes. I really don't know how to defend it, because that's the truth. He just told a ghost story. Changchun was so frightened that he got into his quilt and couldn't get away no matter what. Of course, as a gentleman, he would not take advantage of the opportunity to do anything. However, Sugu didn't know what to do. Changchun did. She said as if no one was watching, "Admiral, do you know? I kissed you secretly yesterday." "What did you say?" Sugu said carefully. He really wanted to ask whether you kissed your forehead, cheek, or lips. "The Admiral is such a stinker," Fubuki said. Fuzang whispered, "Changchun doesn't understand anything, Admiral, you." "It's none of my business." Sugu felt a little powerless. It was all Changchun's business, why should he be scolded? And I thought to myself, if Changchun hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known about such a thing. Especially when you can't feel anything and something happens, it's a huge loss. Sugu defended again and again, but Lingbo remained silent, her face as dark as water. Not long after, when Ayanamai was sending everyone downstairs, he stood in the corridor and called Sugu, and finally decided to speak. "Admiral, the ring, that ring is mine, you can't give it to others." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 845. It was several days later. Ayanamai had completed all the tasks that needed to be handed over, and everyone returned to the shrine. The shrine has been cleaned inside and out, including the shrine, sailor's house, and worship hall. The stone lanterns, sculptures of divine envoys, jade walls, and statues of gods were all wiped clean. It's time to leave the shrine and return to the garrison. This is the last time of cleaning. I don't know what the shrine will look like in the future. Maybe it will become more popular, but the possibility is very low because the location is relatively remote. The biggest possibility is that everyone will leave and it will fall into decline again. Just like when we first came here, there were weeds everywhere, birds living on the beams, foxes and wild cats running around. It was a paradise for wild beasts. I have lived in the shrine for many years, and it is really sad to have to leave suddenly. ISE stood in front of the worship hall, dropped coins into the money box, pulled the hemp rope, and the bell hanging on the hemp rope made a tinkling sound. He bowed twice, clapped twice, and closed his hands. Close your eyes to make a wish, and finally bow to the altar. After everything was done, ISE smiled. Although he was running the shrine, it was a rare sight in so many years. She walked out of the pendulum and saw Hinata standing there. "Have everything been packed?" "It's ready." Shikinami sat on the edge of the bed and smiled slightly. "Sister is so beautiful. If you do this, you will definitely be able to charm the Admiral." "Don't say stupid things." Although he usually lives in an apartment in Songxiang County as a war correspondent, he has his own room at the shrine. When I was packing my things, I found a Maiko uniform that I had left behind when I was a Maiko a long time ago. I unexpectedly wanted to try it on. Ayanamai was wearing a Maiko uniform and stood nervously in front of the floor-length mirror. She looked at herself up and down and repeatedly brushed her bangs. Her short hair didn't look good. Sister really doesn't know how to seize opportunities. Shakia held her cheeks, her tone was quite calm. She didn't feel sorry for her misfortune, she was not angry, or she was excited. If you miss this opportunity, if you don't get the ring, you won't be able to get it in the future. You know when? How can a skinny girl with no breasts, no butt, and skinny girl compete with those battleships? Have you ever said that about your sister? She refused the ring at first, and then asked for it, but she still couldn't do it. Ayanamai thought, but said it out loud, that ring belonged to her. The girl is pregnant. Shakia scratched his ponytail. Even if he was teasing, it seemed ordinary. Are you looking for death? Ayanamai turned her neck and cracked her knuckles. A violent Maiko, Shakia said. I heard that if you crack your fingers frequently, your joints will become bigger and bigger, which will make you look ugly. Ayanami paused. Fubuki, I put away your clothes for you. Fubuki's voice sounded, thank you, Princess Kaguya. Put the suitcase under the bed, remember it? Bai Shui began to pack her things, folding her clothes and skirts. She looked at the crown, Kagura bell, and cypress fan placed on the table. She had not put them away properly after dancing the Kagura dance that day. She hesitated whether to take them back to the town hall, but after thinking about it, she put them away. The admiral seemed very worried. Like. Bai Shui opened the drawer, and there were many pens inside, but most of them were unusable and had not been thrown away. In addition, there were transparent glue, scissors, receipts for something, hand towels, coins of different denominations, glass beads, small dolls, greeting cards, a folding knife for peeling fruit, lots and lots of them. She picked up a newspaper clipping that had already turned yellow, and when she opened it, a maple leaf that had been stuck in it as a bookmark a long time ago fell down. Bai Shui remembered that she used to like to write diaries, and she kept the diary in a drawer. She wanted to take it back to the town guard house, but after looking for it, she didn't see it. She thought about it and opened the cabinet under the drawer. It was full of books, including unused textbooks, a letterhead that had been used for a few times and then not used again, and many magazines, ranging from essays criticizing current ills to praising youth. All essays are included. She took everything out and finally found a notebook half the size of a textbook. June 7th, the weather was fine. Fubuki picked up an orange cat and wanted to keep it at the shrine. But the orange cat is fat and has a bell hanging on its neck, so it must have an owner. She actually said that there was no problem, she just picked it up if she couldn't run away. The way she sticks out her tongue is really cute. There must be some mistake, Fubuki, who is so lively, is actually my sister. July 23rd, a rainy day. Today is Sunday. It has rained heavily all day and there is water in the yard. There was actually a leak in the warehouse, but it was never discovered. Shivo took the bucket to catch it, and it was full in no time. Fubuki said that the capacity of a bucket depends on the lowest piece of wood, and the strength of an iron chain depends on the weakest link. She has been watching too much psychological chicken soup recently, and her mind is full of those things. I thought about the Admiral again in the morning. I wonder where he went. Can he come back early? If you can't come back, please be happy. Kaguya, what are you looking at? When Shirayuki saw Fubuki suddenly approaching, she closed the diary and stuffed it into her suitcase. Fubuki said, let me take a look. No. Let me just take a look, what is that? Fubuki said coquettishly, my Kaguya, my good sister. Bai Shui shook her head firmly. If you don't give it, I won't give it, you stingy guy. Chiwiyu was helpless. She looked at the books spread out on the floor, what should I do with these books? Bai Shui picked up a book and touched the cover wrapped in cardboard, I don't know. Sell it, Fubuki said, sell it and eat roast duck tonight. Bai Shui pursed her lips and said nothing. Shirayuki, do you still remember who she is? While packing her things, Fubuki turned to the photo album and started looking at it. She pointed to a person in the photo. She was a cute girl with short hair. She was very familiar, but she couldn't remember her name. Mile Yang, a transfer student who transferred to our class last year, but only studied for a month before transferring again. Fubuki nodded and thought about it. Where is this place? Fubuki flipped through another page of the photo album. In the photo, he saw several girls wearing cotton coats, hats, and gloves. Their whole bodies were wrapped tightly, sitting side by side on the sled. The pine forest and the mountains were covered with silver, decorated plainly. I still remember that it was winter, and we all made an appointment to go skiing together, but in the end we only spent 1 day playing, and then we sat on the kotetsu in the hotel, chatting, playing chess, and sleeping for 2 days. Shangyu Fubuki looked at the people in the photo. Shikinami didn't go, sister, me, Chin, Lily, Natsuki. I told Natsuki yesterday, Fubuki said, we are leaving. Chui Shui took a moment to remember her. The town government was in the south. It was really far away from here. It took many days to go back and forth. It was estimated that she would never have the chance to see her good friends again. I remember her and the second level who was 1 grade above us. Danta is engaged and will get married after graduation. Nikaitada also wants to become an admiral, but I don't think he can do it. Bai Shui thought of the boy with an inchboard haircut. He was very sunny, but unexpectedly a fool, and whispered, I don't think he can do it either. Fubuki smiled. The admiral said that Akagi-sama has become a girl. She is much younger. She might be younger than me. Then he will call me Fubuki-sensei. Daydreaming. Sister Daifeng is writing a novel. She is a talented beautiful girl writer. She is amazing, Fubuki said. Yesterday I went to the bookstore to rent out the book she wrote. I just read half of it and I will return it this afternoon. The best writing. He, Ayanami is destined to have no ring as a war correspondent before she graduates. When she goes back, I want her to write me into the novel, Ice and Snow Queen Fubuki. Bai Shui said unceremoniously, you are thinking too much. After leaving the tutelage, she actually stayed with the big mackerel and the archerfish. Shouldn't they be enemies? Fubuki said, it's so funny. The archerfish actually picked up a Shinano. That's awesome. Armored aircraft carrier. But according to the admiral, Shinano is actually a fool and an unlucky guy. Yukikaze seems to like her very much and always says that Shinano-ne is very gentle and kind. Bai Shui also heard about it. The sisters of Takui, Akatsuki Raiden, they have returned to the garrison a long time ago. The Arashi, the destroyer that defeated the deep-sea Yamato and fished it out, screamed when something happened. Sister Mutsu has not returned yet. I don't know where the governor's mansion has gone. While talking, Fubuki glanced out of the window and saw the lush trees and the dots of sunlight falling on the big rocks through the gaps between the trees. Dust particles were flying in the sunlight. She rested her head on the photo album, and a gentle breeze blew into the room. The small wind chime hanging on the windowsill rang lightly, and she smiled. Admiral. Sugu hugged the cute Yukikaze. For some reason, he liked to sit on the stone steps going down the mountain under the torii gate outside the shrine. He turned around and saw Fuzu. Well, Fuzu, what can I do? It's nothing. Fuzang sat down next to him. I just wanted to call the admiral. I'll go back tomorrow. I've been out for many days. Yes, she was a little disappointed. She failed to catch the peak. The young girl was too afraid of life and couldn't even get close. Think about it, even a young girl like herself, a little lowly killer, has failed to rescue the boat. Feng Feng will have to be a wandering ship girl for the rest of her life. Poor Feng Feng missed the admiral who had the best garrison in the world. Sighing again, it didn't help. Sugu hugged Swafeng tightly. At least he still had Swafeng. Swafeng, I'll go back tomorrow. Yes, Swafeng nodded. Consultant Su, is it fun? Chang Chun said loudly, it's fun. I didn't ask you. I didn't tell you, Chang Chun snorted. Sugu laughed and touched her head. She rubbed her head against Sugu's hand like a puppy, smiling. Swafeng remembered why the admiral called him out. Thank you, Admiral. You're welcome, Sugu said. This is what the admiral should do. I don't know what kind of little animal ran across the stone steps. Chang Chun jumped down in 2 or 2 steps. Sugu put his head on Swafeng's head and thought of the town guard mansion. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 846. Wearing a white vest and blue denim hot pants, Beizai is dressed coolly. There was nothing she could do. Even though it was already mid-September, entering autumn, and the garrison was located in the south, the weather was still terribly hot. The beach outside the town hall is still everyone's favorite place, except for one person of course. In the Kaohsiung noodle shop, Nia Hai still lies on the counter day after day, doing nothing because there are no customers. The ice cream and smoothies in the cafe are in short supply. Click click click. Beizai reached for a piece of potato chips and put it in his mouth. He finished it quickly and took another piece. I ate almost all of the potato chips in the bowl on the bench next to me. I thought about saving a few for later, so I stopped and sucked my fingers until they had no taste. Gilug gilug. Beizai tilted his head slightly, picked up the iced Coke next to the potato chips and drank it in one go. There were only a few ice cubes left in the cup. Then he leaned on the back of the chair and looked at a piece of white paper on the desk in front of him. Erasers and pencils were scattered beside him. He grabbed his slightly messy pink mid-length hair and exhaled. Beizai is not drawing a book, Bismarck X Hood, or Bismarck X Prince of Wales. Since Rodney has returned to the garrison, there are new characters. Not afraid of heaven and earth, not afraid of any Yandere. There was no secret, and now she was sitting in the room openly painting. The reason was that she had become a good person. It would be better to say that she had gone ashore. Otherwise, if you dare to be in the room, your sister Bismarck will check on you at any time. Prince Eugen of the Gestapo is not a good person, he is basically her lackey. However, after just drawing a few pages of an ordinary comic, you have no idea how to draw it, your writing ideas are exhausted, and you can't figure out the plot at all. I have to say, it is easier to draw a book, and just fight with each other if you disagree. Whether it is eating, drinking, or dancing, you don't need to think about whether it is reasonable or not. It's been almost half a month. It's already been half a month. Why hasn't my brother-in-law come back yet? Does it take so long? Beizai, do you know? Brother-in-law, he took away the ring, the oath ring. He usually goes out to find people, no matter who they are, and never takes the ring. So, you know this. What does this mean? Is it that serious? That is, he had already made up his mind to give out the ring before going out. Ayanamai, it must be her. Think about it, Helena was like this before, it was just harassment, and she finally made up for it. Ring, it will definitely be the same this time. If that's the case, forget it, I don't know how to tell you better. I'm afraid that he will break the rules. Once he marries Ayanamai, and Ayanamai is a destroyer, there will be 1 and 2, and there will be no pressure for him to marry again in the future. Fletcher, yes, that's her. I usually see her blush when she sees her brother-in-law and immediately lower her head. As for the brother-in-law, he dodges when he looks at Fletcher. So, they must have a ghost. There are also fantasy, that butt, those legs, wow, there's no way to refuse. Trust, yes, she wore a cheongsam once, and her brother-in-law's eyes went straight when he saw her. Chong Chun went out with him this time, maybe when she comes back this time, it's also turned into a wedding ship. It's not just a destroyer. A destroyer is just the first step. It's also a submarine. Let me tell you, Archerfish. My stupid head has forgotten Fusang so much. Her breasts are so big. My brother-in-law only likes this. Maybe he has eaten them all by now. Holding his head, Beizai turned around on the bench, only to see Saratoga sleeping on the bed, looking at him. His mouth kept chattering without stopping, turning into the bald eagle Belmacan, became a colossus. I didn't have any inspiration at all, so I was still annoyed. It doesn't matter. You actually think it doesn't matter? Saratoga suddenly sat up from the bed, sitting cross-legged on the bed, and became very dissatisfied. A person's time is limited, and there is only so much love. The more people we have, the fewer these things we have. I think of the old days, when it was just me, my sister, and my little house, and we had such a happy life. Now that there are more and more people, we have much less time to talk every day. When two people are sleeping, just talking is enough. He talks a lot, he talks non-stop. It's so annoying. I'm about to go to sleep, and he still wants to talk, Baizai said with excitement. With a smile on her face, it was obvious that she liked it very much. I thought about the Admiral hugging me and talking about all kinds of things together, from notebook to notebook to notebook. It was so happy. Saratoga murmured to herself, feeling a little confused for a moment. Sleep for two. Didn't Gaga sleep with the Admiral? Yes, of course. Saratoga sniffed and insisted on not falling tears. On the first day we met again, we slept together. It was earlier than my sister, and compared to everyone else, it's all early. So awesome. Baizai had no doubt that he was there. That's how powerful I am. I'm super powerful. I'm more powerful than anyone else. Baizai thought for a moment. No, you must not be as good as Xiaozai. Xiaozai is just a little Lolita, she is not a wedding host. Baizai responded, oh. Saratoga paused. Where did you just say it? I remembered it. He is already 13 wedding ships. There are 30 days in a month. Everyone can have 2 or 3 wedding ships in a month. From now on, wedding ships, if it's too much, maybe only 1 day in a month or even 2 months belongs to you. Think about it, it's scary. You can sleep with me. Baizai didn't know what shyness was at all, she thought to herself, but the Admiral was very talkative, like sisters, etc. every day. He said that he would ask his sister to come with him, but he immediately stopped him for fear of being beaten. He couldn't be any less inferior. What a great idea, let's sleep together. Saratoga, who is also a sister controller, muttered to herself. Having a sister and a brother-in-law are two joys. Saratoga rolled around with her pillow in her arms. Brother-in-law, come back soon. Brother-in-law, come back quickly. Saratoga thought again, it was not the first time with her brother-in-law yet. But that's okay, it's the same in Colorado. Huh, that loser. There are so many people like Richelieu, Washington, Raiders, and Yuxian who don't have rings yet, but I have had one for so long. It's really amazing. Lion, what a poor lion. It's obviously a wedding ship, but it hasn't returned to the governor's house yet. It's so sad. Thinking of this, Saratoga became happy and smiled like a child. In fact, Sugu had long wanted to return to the Tutlari residence. He had missed the world's cutest little house so much these days. He had not replenished the elements of the little house for a long time, and was getting thinner day by day. And my wife Lexington, even though her cooking skills are not as good as those of Yuxian, she still wants to eat the midnight snack she prepared. No matter what the request is, it can be met, and the reputation of the head maid is really great. Not only that, sister-in-law Saratoga, Vixen Akagi, Baizai, Bismarck, Ziwihi, Counterattack, Missouri, Sagittarius, too many to count, I miss them anyway. Crane City. Admiral, why are there so many people around in front of you? Fuzu, help me hold my wallet, ID, and keys. I'm afraid they'll be stolen. You wait here while I go take a look. I'm going. Changchun, don't make trouble. How do you girls look like squeezing in the crowd? Admiral, I know what you are thinking. Sugu squeezed into the crowd alone, and soon squeezed out and returned to everyone. It's really not what people want, and people are helpless, we can't leave. We can't leave. Fuzang returned the things to Sugu and asked curiously, why? Because the deep-sea ship girl has appeared, there is no way to go to sea, Sugu replied. What kind of deep-sea ship girl? Changchun lived on the guardrail above the dam, dangling his legs. Let me wipe them all out. Sugu remembered that he had just heard people talking around him, each one talking anxiously about the possible war and how long it might take to end. He laughed. Has Changchun ever seen Yamato in the deep sea? No, when I was still brave, I only fried fish. Even after I became Changchun and became powerful, I have never seen any deep sea flagship. Is it very powerful? Yamato, do you know what it was like in history? In the past, it was used as a decisive weapon. The Yamato class embodies the pinnacle of shipbuilding technology in the Old World and the Old Japanese Empire, and is influenced by the individual ship superiority doctrine influenced by the ideological influence. The design idea is simple and crude, highlighting the ultimate power. The super large caliber giant main gun is even more famous in the world. How do you say that? All living things are equal before the 460 mm gun. Not only this, but also has the same thick and sturdy armor, is indestructible. Sugu blew the Yamato hard, saying something like the Japanese Navy has great expectations for it and regards it as the trump card in the final decisive battle. The combined fleet cannot be used easily without permission. Sadly, when it was completed and put into service, it happened to be in time. It was an era when the dominance of battleships was replaced by aircraft carriers. The sinking of the Yamato also announced the complete end of the era of large ships and big guns. Naturally, he did not say, the Yamato is already so powerful, how powerful should it be when it becomes a deep-sea flagship? That is the cyanotic Valkyrie of the deep sea, terrifying and ruthless. Admiral, don't lie to me, I know it, Changchun said. Isn't she just a model worker? What's so great about her? I've seen photos of her, where she was stripped naked. Sugu thought to himself that he must have told him not to show these things to little Lolita. Who showed it to you? Changchun sold the person without hesitation. Xiaozai, she secretly showed it to us. Xiaozai, go back and teach her a lesson. Sugu thought to himself, there was another reason to spank her. Fuzu frowned and did not ask, Admiral, did Yamato Fukumai appear? That's why the ship can't leave. I don't know, I just listened to what those people said. The most people talk about deep-sea Yamato, and some people talk about deep-sea Akagakaga, and some people talk about Fortress Princess. I have to say that Fortress Princess is the most popular, and ordinary people know it. Sugu thought to himself that they were just ordinary people. There was no way they could have known such detailed and vivid information. They probably just heard about deep-sea ship girl and then added fuel to the fire and spread the word about the three of them. In the end, it might even turn into a fantasy story. What do they know? That's it. Fuzang nodded, and then thought about it again. Should we go and help? What are you helping me with? It shouldn't be an important thing. This kind of thing happens all the time. It's inconvenient for us to carry a lot of things. Sugu said, wait a minute. It should be fine after a day or two. Okay. Let's go. If it still doesn't work, let's go to the ship girl branch here to ask about the situation. If necessary, there is no problem in helping. Fubuki asked, Admiral, you said that the two defense battles of our garrison were fought in the deep-sea Yamato. Yes. Sugu naturally listened to everyone's reports on how the battle went. The first time deep-sea Yamato came with a large fleet, we defended it. Since there were not many people in the garrison at that time, we did not sink it. She just repelled it. Speaking of which, there was a deep-sea destroyer beside Fukumai Yamato at that time. It must be Fukumai Yukikaze. The second time she came to take revenge, and she also brought the deep-sea warriors Ryajo and Ziwikaku with her. At that time, she returned. There were more people in the guarding mansion, and I could barely say that they were crushed. I caught land the first time, but unfortunately nothing was caught the second time. so I suffered a big loss. Fubuki asked mischievously, does the admiral want to fish out Yamato? Sugu said without hesitation, of course I do. Sugu thought to himself that the game had been reluctant to release the Yamato in the first place. It was such a classic number 1 battleship, but it only released a Yamato cannon, but it was a pity that he did not have one. In this world today, any ship girl is likely to appear. When we have the opportunity to let Arashi lead the way in the future, we all take the initiative to push the deep sea Yamato. If we don't get out of the Yamato, we will push it twice, and if we don't get out twice, we will push it 3 times. You can fish it out. I don't think that's possible. Fubuki nodded, the admiral is an African. Sugu was dissatisfied, what? I am the European admiral. I do not believe. That's the truth, Sugu said with admiration. I wonder what Yamato looks like, he must be very beautiful. Isn't there Shinano in our garrison? Fubuki said, she is the 3rd Yamato class ship. Sister, Yamato should be about the same as her. Yes, Sugu said, I'll ask her to tie up her hair later and wear a kimono or 12 singles. I think Yamato must look like this. Even if it's Japanese style, Fubuki still doesn't understand, what are 12 separate clothes? It doesn't mean, wearing 12 pieces of clothes, right? Of course not, it doesn't mean 12, it just means a lot of things. Sugu thought for a while and said, but there are also many pieces, and they are very heavy. One kind of court dress and another kind of formal dress, they are extremely luxurious. Okay, I get it now. When everyone waited for a day, they were unwilling to go back because they had stayed at the shrine for a long time. I heard that there was a cathedral here in Hesheng, so I went to the church the next day to have a look, but found nothing interesting. On the 3rd day, the ship still couldn't be shipped, so Sugu decided to go to the ship girl branch to ask. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 847. There are seagulls circling in the sky, and the yacht is sailing on the sea, leaving behind a white wave. Due to the appearance of deep-sea ship girl, the cruise ship returning to Chuangzhou could not sail. After waiting for 2 days, it still couldn't work. On the morning of the 3rd day, Sugu took everyone to the ship girl branch in the suburbs of Hesheng to find out what the situation was like. It was necessary if you don't mind helping. I am for everyone and everyone is for me. The Admiral Circle is quite united, and things that have nothing to do with oneself rarely happen. He recalled how he didn't understand when he met Eugene, and later when he was an intern, he met Chen Nan. They were both very good people. However, people in the Kenmue branch don't know the specific situation, because the deep-sea Kenmue does not appear in the waters near Crane City. Anyway, the eldest sister went out in a hurry with the combat team. She has been there for several days and has not come back yet. No information has been transmitted, which is quite worrying. It is certain that the deep-sea ship girls are powerful, otherwise it would not take so much time. What is worrying is that we don't know if there is a deep-sea flagship to hold the battle. If there is, no matter which one it is, that's bad. Every time the deep-sea flagship appears, it is a catastrophe. Even if it is only entrenched in the offshore, no ship dares to set sail. Cargo ships, passenger ships, fishing boats, or real warships still owned by a few countries, directly or indirectly cause no one knows how many loss. Generally speaking, the garrison does not have a certain amount of strength in the ship girls, and they are just serving food in front of the deep-sea ship girls. Usually, many garrison and ship girl branches must unite to repel or suppress them. It is not a problem that can be solved in a day or 2. It may take a week. These are nothing, the scary thing is that casualties can easily occur. Fortunately, the abyssal flagship rarely appears, which means abyssal Yamato appears a little more often, and now he has become a model worker. Sugu had already expressed his intention to come. After the people from the ship girl branch explained the situation to him, they emphasized that they should not join in the fun without a certain level of strength. After he showed that there was no problem, he looked happy. There is strength in numbers, and then arranged a yacht to send everyone to the ship girl branch in another city, where the commander-in-chief was located, and then on the way. Changchun was lying on the guardrail of the deck, her long white hair fluttering in the sea breeze. She looked at the sparkling sea surface not far away under the sunlight, stretched out her hands and waved it around. It would be great if it was a deep-sea flagship. Watch me take the general's head from it. My little Changchun, don't become blucher, you are so confident, Sugu said rudely. Deep-sea flagships are basically battleships. Not to mention aircraft carriers, they can be out of your range. Let's just release carrier-based aircraft. Let's talk about battleships and battle cruisers. Which ones don't have armor and durability to explode? Why do you think so? Your missiles can only hit small boats. They have basically no armor and are not destroyers with low durability. Light cruiser, heavy cruiser. Sugu thought that the game was limited by the gameplay. As the version changed, the players' ship girls became more and more powerful. In order to avoid the activities being too simple, they could only continuously enhance the data of the deep-sea flagship. Moreover, the deep-sea flagship that has already appeared in this event may make a guest appearance in the next event, and its strength will be different. However, here, the strength of a deep-sea flagship will not change easily, and the deep-sea flagship that appears later may not be as powerful as the deep-sea flagship that appears in the front. Changchun argued, Fortress G cannot fly carrier-based aircraft, and it has no armor. First set a tone and make Psyche the cutest in the world. Sugu patted Changchun on the head with one hand and ruffled her long hair. Who told you that Fortress G can't fly carrier-based aircraft? She has a total of 200 people, including the deep-sea bomber too, and, well, Italian little plane. Well, her opening is not very powerful, but at least it is enough to deal with you. And she has no armor, but her durability is as high as 666. Do you think your little missiles will be useful to her? Sugu thought of the photos he had seen of Fortress G before. The white-haired girl lay face down with a charming look on her face. On the sea, he looked so light and soft that he could easily be knocked down, so he didn't have any armor. She is the most popular among all the deep-sea flagships. Some people have even written a novel with her as the heroine, but only half of it is only up and not down. It is simply abominable. It is best to hang her up and beat her. Sugu laughed. Remember, you can only know others when they are empty. Fullness will bring harm, humility will benefit. Fullness will overflow, arrogance will fail. Starting off again, Changchun pouted, a little dissatisfied. Fuzu said at this time, it's better not to have a deep-sea flagship appear. Yes, Sugu nodded, thinking that Fuzu's training level was still good. The equipment was replaced with the best when he left the garrison, but without modification, the ship's equipment parameters were really poor. Ise and Hinata, due to the relationship between the standing paintings, they were directly dragged to the expedition team after transformation. Their equipment was not dismantled, no additional equipment was given, and they were not strengthened. There was really no merit. The rest are all destroyers, which are too fragile. The same goes for Changchun, a guided missile destroyer. Changchun hung his hands outside the railing and swayed. I'm scared when I encounter a deep-sea flagship. I'm so timid. I don't want to see any of you sink, Sugu said. This was what he meant. Changchun hugged Sugu's waist. I'm so touched. Sugu thought to himself, I haven't said anything touching yet, how come you are so moved? But when he looked at the girl again, he saw her playful and smiling face, and he immediately knew what was going on. What if Changchun said, what if a deep-sea flagship appears? Sugu said, there is no such thing as a chance. Changchun was quite persistent, what if? There are no ifs, Sugu said, don't set up a flag. Before being poisoned by Sugu, Chui Shui asked, "What is flag?" "After this battle, I will go back to my hometown to get married. You go first, and I will catch up soon. There is nothing to be afraid of anymore. I will definitely come back alive. I will put an eye. After collecting this wave of soldiers, we will fight wildly. I have been very happy during this period." "Run quickly," Sugu said with a smile, seeing that Chui Shui was still confused. "Actually, it's just the crow's mouth." Chang Chun nodded with all thoughts. She still needs to study hard. Sugu looked at the line of sky and sea. If it is really a deep-sea flagship, we can only send a telegram back to the garrison to summon people. A cloud-piercing arrow and thousands of troops will come to meet us. Sugu looked at Fuzang and suddenly laughed. Fuzu saw him and asked in confusion, "Admiral, why are you laughing?" Sugu said, "I was thinking, why did the battle take so long? If it wasn't the deep-sea flagship, we might have found the 6th battle line, the 8th cruiser, and the 29 expulsion guarding the door when we passed by." Chang Chun and Chuixu didn't understand, and Fuzang's face suddenly turned pale. Seeing this scene, Sugu asked curiously, "Fuzang sees that everyone has grown up and become more powerful. Don't you want to grow? Maybe this time is the opportunity. As long as one person defeats them and overcomes his own inner demons, he can grow." "I don't want to, it's not like it at all," Fuzang said. "I don't want to grow up, and the way I am now is fine. It's definitely not possible at all." Sugu thought to himself that the historical Shujiali naval battle was not here, but in the distant Philippines. It was destined to be impossible to have such a situation, which was a pity. "I don't know what Fuzu will be like when she grows up. Generally speaking, a kanji girl will become more beautiful as she grows up. It might be bigger, but it's already big enough, so just don't shrink it. It took me a long time to get up in the morning. After I slowly finished my breakfast, I went to the pier to take a look at the situation, and then I felt that it was almost noon at the Kanyang branch in the suburbs. When we finally arrived at our destination by cruise ship, it was already afternoon. After getting off the yacht and walking inside, he saw no one along the way. As he walked into the war room, Sugu saw several admirals standing in front of the huge map hanging on the wall, and many ship girls lying on their backs. The long battle table. Soon after Sugu understood the situation, he felt a little embarrassed for a moment. He had worked so hard to come here, and he even fantasized that he was the savior, but he didn't expect that it was basically done here. There is no deep-sea flagship, only the deep-sea force, which has been basically wiped out, leaving only some remnants. After such a major victory, although almost everyone was injured, no one died. A celebration party was already being prepared. "Admiral Su, let's attend the celebration party together." "I don't need it." Sugu really didn't want to participate. He didn't know anyone, and he had done nothing. No merit, no reward. "Although I'm late, thank you for your hard work. It's just for a meal." "You're welcome. Let's get to know each other and communicate more in the future. Introduce yourself." "Chin Song, the admiral of the Sanjiawan garrison." "I, Sugu, am not the admiral here. I went to Chuangziu." "Listen to our names, fellow citizens. I also want to stay." Sugu thought to himself that you were really capable, but he still refused. "But we were originally going to leave, but the cruise ship couldn't sail. Now that the deep-sea ship girl has been wiped out, we have to rush back. There are still remaining deep-sea ship girls at sea. The cruise ship can't leave. It doesn't matter if we rush back tomorrow." To be honest, Sugu felt that something was wrong from the beginning, but now he realized, there are still remaining ship girls. "Have you prepared a celebration banquet?" In the end, Sugu stayed. The other party repeatedly promised that everyone would never miss the cruise, and talked a lot. It was too warm to refuse, and then the two of them chatted for a while. "Although I haven't encountered a deep-sea flagship, have you seen a deep-sea armored aircraft carrier with 200 armor? No, Sugu said, it's so scary. Sugu thought to himself, I just pushed down the deep-sea turpits who had armor 2, 3, and 3. Why not me? Someone fished out the battleship this time. I'm really envious. So European Sugu thought to himself that it was just a battleship. He had passed that stage. Now he prefers submarines. Cute little submarines, whether it is the Little Angel U-156 or the Foodie U-96, any one is fine. Come and get one. I am willing to take it. 10 years of life in exchange, forget it, 1 day of life at most. If that doesn't work, surgeonfish can also be used. The small Colorado can be said to be a little wife. I really want to stab him to death with a spear. Ha, I must get him drunk at night. That guy has really skyrocketed. Yeah, get him drunk, and he should pay for the party. Sugu shook his head slightly. As for that, it's just a battleship, does it need to be called soaring into the sky? The other party still had something to do, so Sugu didn't say anything more. It's a pity, it's such a pity. When Changchun complained repeatedly, Sugu saw an acquaintance. In fact, I can't say that I am familiar with him, I just met him once, when I went to Lianghe County to find Tianlong Tian and encountered a defensive battle. If the other party was not a ship girl, she would have definitely forgotten about it, but she was, so the impression was very deep. I saw her long black hair with a hint of burgundy tied into a ponytail, and she was wearing a white military uniform that was very similar to the Admiral's uniform. Although she looked a little embarrassed and looked like she had just returned from an attack, she was extremely handsome. Nagato, meet again. Nagato frowned when he saw Sugu. After a moment, he remembered who the man in front of him was and felt a little embarrassed. Even 2 years later, I still remember that scene clearly, it was like a nightmare. He and the opponent's ship girl went out together. They talked a lot in the beginning, but in the end they were reduced to the role of shouting 666 from the side. She bit her lip, of course she couldn't remember Sugu's name. Why are you here? Sugu briefly talked about the situation. Nagato nodded and his eyes fell on Fuzu, Ise, Hinata, and others behind Sugu. He thought that there were already several battleships beside him, and now there were several figures following him. A tall girl, obviously a battleship. So, when did capital ships become so worthless? I'm going to change my clothes. After chatting for a few more words, Changmin left. Changchun asked Sugu, who is that? Nagato walked far away. When he walked around the corner, he saw Sugu talking to Changchun from the corner of his eye. He subconsciously thought that they must be talking about his own affairs, and his face looked a little wrong. Nagato, why do you look so weird? It's nothing, Nagato said. Mutsu. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 848. Nagato, there are so many male admirals outside, do you think anyone will come over and take a peek? Then he will quietly take your clothes and insist that you be his wife. This is the drainage room, or a bathroom, with a large circular pool in the middle filled with warm water, even though the weather is still hot today. There is an extra step in the large round pool. Nagato is sitting on the step. The water has just reached her chest. She puts her hands on the edge of the pool and looks at Mutsu, who is standing next to her in a bath towel. How dare they? For a ship girl, Mutsu said, what are those admirals afraid to do? I don't mind if the cannon blows my head to pieces, they can just come. Having said that, Nagato still subconsciously looked around. The window into the canal room was wide open, and he could see the blue sky, as well as the green bamboo and green trees planted outside. The dense canopy of a tree whose name I don't know. Even so, if you want to take a peek, it is not possible at all, but it is definitely not easy. This is located in the deepest part of the Kanji branch, where men stop and are absolutely not allowed to come. Nagato is so beautiful. Mutsu, who had already washed his whole body before coming here, stood in the large circular pool, took off his bath towel and put it next to him, then sat in the pool water and sat next to Nagato. Suddenly discovering something, she leaned forward and looked at Nagato, reaching out her hand. Snapped. Nagato did not hesitate to slap away the hand reaching for his chest. Mutsu, what do you want to do? What is that? Mutsu said. Chest mole. Nagato looked down and said, yeah. I have a big mole on my chest. The mole on Nagato's chest is actually not big. It can be said to be just right. Mutsu said with a smile, it's so cute. Nagato frowned, what did you say? I said Nagato's chest mole is so cute. If anyone in the Kenmei branch had heard Nagato's cold words and kept silent, they would have definitely restrained themselves. However, Mutsu was not afraid of Nagato at all and even increased his volume. What's there to see? Nagato blocked his chest. She knew that Mutsu's character liked to tease others the most. How should I put it? It improves the beauty very well. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is the finishing touch. Mutsu nodded repeatedly. Although Nagato was usually handsome and majestic, she knew that Nagato was easily shy. He just needed a little teasing to change his mind immediately. As a soft girl, this is probably the contrast between cuteness. If a man sees her, she will be unable to control herself, and she might immediately turn into a beast and knock down Nagato. Nagato saw Mutsu approaching and pushed her head away with one hand. Stop messing around. Okay, let's stop making trouble. Mutsu was quiet, leaning her head on the edge of the bathtub. It's been a day of combat, and I'm really a little tired. Take a bath, it's comfortable, it's so comfortable. The fatigue disappeared all of a sudden. Thank you so much. This time Nagato looked at Luao and realized that the other person was actually not his subordinate, but just a helper he had found. She recalled the scene when she first met each other. Walking on the street, I found a girl surrounded by several people, so of course I went to help. Who would have thought that after being easily put behind a few gangsters, I heard a small complaint, oh, I haven't had enough fun yet, this time it's good, now I don't have to play anymore. For a moment, I thought I had met a slutty woman, and I felt a little unlucky. It was completely unnecessary. Of course, I later found out that what the other person liked to do the most was to break off the wrists and fingers of those gangsters who were teasing me, and then tease their vaginal legs a few times. Anyway, at that time, I suddenly realized that we all looked a bit similar. Mutsu was not polite, she nodded repeatedly, thanks to me. Without you, it would be really difficult for us, Nagato said, such a high level of training and such excellent equipment. Can I still boast about my training level? Mutsu said, what other excellent equipment is there? It's just 23 cannons. Nagato sighed, is your request too high, or my request is too low? Maybe your horizons are too low. You haven't seen any powerful people. I've actually seen 2 powerful people. Nagato bit his lips and thought of the scene that still made him want to crawl into the ground even now. There is such a Wikaku, I don't know much about the carrier-based aircraft. I am not an aircraft carrier, and my research is not that in-depth. It was just an opening, and it easily destroyed the deep-sea battleship. She also has a sister, the Shokaku. Although she did not attack, her strength is definitely not weak. In addition, there is a Tirpitz, which looks lazy, but is really powerful, and its training level is higher than yours. It has a set of luxurious equipment, such as cat cannons, Mk6, etc. I don't know where he came from. I just met him once and never met him again, so I don't know where he is from. By the way, the ones I just mentioned already have admirals. And their admiral, I just met him. He came over to help, but we have already finished the fight. Nagato looked up at the ceiling, remembering what he had just seen. Mutsu, do you think there are really such powerful admirals in the world? Shokakuzi Wikaku and Hokutaku are quite powerful, Mutsu said, but Nagato, you don't need to express such emotion. You should have met many European admirals. It would be fine if he is one of those old admirals. The problem is that he is only in his 20s and looks like he has just graduated. That's not all, Nagato said, this time he came here without Shoukeku or Wikaku. Turpits, but replaced another batch, 3 of them should be battleships, and the rest are destroyers. But one of the destroyers is extraordinary. I know it. She is the war correspondent Ayanami of Tokai Weekly. You know? It's very powerful. I usually don't look good when I see the admiral, but I saw her following him. Could it be that he took her away? You're so good at bailing out boats, Mutsu laughed and joked, don't you have an admiral? Has he taken action against you? No, Nagato said, I remembered that last time I invited him to the celebration party, he was anxious to leave. I didn't expect that he actually stayed this time. Mutsu smiled sweetly, I missed it last time, but it's just right this time. Because she is Mutsu, and from a historical perspective, she is her younger sister. Nagato doesn't mind joking, and he would never meet another person. If I am guaranteed to become as powerful as that Turpits, I don't mind join the garrison. No sense of moral integrity. Let's not talk about that. Nagato paused and suddenly said, seriously, Mutsu, come and help me. No, Mutsu said, I don't even know when it will sink. I'm not asking you to join the combat team, of course, I'll still trouble you when needed. Nagato knew Mutsu's abilities, I mainly want you to be my assistant and secretary. Mutsu blinked, if you have something to do, do the secretary, and if you have nothing to do, do the secretary. I hit someone. Nagato raised his right hand that was clenched into a fist. Forget it, Mutsu said, being your secretary or assistant doesn't make me your subordinate. Nagato said seriously, you can sit in my seat if you want. Your words are enough. Mutsu waved his hands quickly, no, 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 you are serious. Is this interesting? Mutsu was confused, what's interesting? I'm talking about you, Nagato said, as a ship girl, you are so powerful. You must have experienced many things before, and now you are opening an izakaya. It's interesting, of course it is, Mutsu said, I opened a store to sell clothes, but it closed after 2 months. Later, I opened a store selling small handicrafts, stationery, etc., but it only opened for a few months. It closed within a month, and in the end it was a loss. Now I open an izakaya and work as the proprietress. I have the final say on my territory. The entire Kiya district, well, the entire Kosha Street, the entire Kosha Street can be said to be the entire Kosha Street. My izakaya is the most popular. Of course, please ask Nagato to say hello, no one dares to come to my izakaya to cause trouble now. According to regulations, Kenmyu is not allowed to interfere in government affairs, but as the eldest sister of the local Kenmyu branch, Nagato knows many officials including big businessmen. She just said hello and took care of a small izakaya to ensure that no one in the black and white would cause trouble. No one doesn't sell face, it's just a little effort. In fact, this invitation had been mentioned many times before, but the answer was the same every time. Nagato did not force it anymore. He sighed and asked, have the drinks been arranged for tonight? It's arranged. Thank you, Nagato, for taking care of the business. Mutsu smiled. All the drinks for the Kenmyu branch are bought from her izakaya, and she has made a lot of money through this. Sure, reciprocating a favor, the price is very fair, and I won't try to trick people. By the way, tonight, would you like me to call over the top singer of our izakaya? It's the best. Nagato thought for a while and said, I've always felt weird. You are an izakaya, not a bar, so why are you still providing performances? I feel like it's okay no matter what. The main reason is that she likes to perform and sing, Mutsu said, in fact, She rarely sings now because her destined opponent or the person she likes is not around anymore. I don't know who to sing to. Nagato also knows how to gossip. Who is it? Look at my expression. After Mutsu finished speaking, he showed an expression, ovo. Nagato was confused. It's so obvious, but you still don't know or explain. Mutsu thought for a while and asked curiously, Nagato, you have made a great contribution this time. Although it is not a deep-sea flagship, this deep-sea ship girl is not ordinary. Many capital ships appeared, it can be said to be a large force in the deep sea. No one sank, and it was all thanks to you that you won the glorious victory. Is it possible to be promoted? It's all down to everyone, not me. You are the leader. Nagato shrugged his shoulders. I am already the head of the Kenmue branch, where else can I be promoted? Mutsu said, I heard you often talk about reporting work. Who do you report to? I know what you mean, Nagato said. Akage from Songxiang County is my boss. She is much more powerful than me. She has gained countless victories over the years. I owe this to her. She is not worth mentioning in front of her. She has fought against Fukumai Yamato before, and also against Fukumai Akagakaga. I have seen her operate a carrier-based aircraft, and she is really good. Mutsu is usually not in the Kenmei branch and has no idea what the situation is like. Who is more powerful, that Akage or the Zwikaku you started talking about? I'm a battleship with low air defense. I'm just a layman watching the show. I don't know how powerful they are. How shameless, Mutsu said. I don't have this kind of eyesight. Nagato left after not soaking for long, and Mutsu hadn't left yet. She continued to soak in the bath. It was so comfortable. After all, she is not like Nagato. As the eldest sister of the Kanji branch, she has a lot of things to do. It is really impossible to stop her for a long time, at least for now. The reason why I don't want to join Kenmei headquarters is that I'm too busy. Although I have a lot of free time, it's better to run an izakaya anyway. Mutsu listened to the sound of the bamboo rustling in the wind, and thought to himself that Akage was very powerful, but he was definitely not as good as the Akage he knew. I don't know how she is now, but she is probably with Kaga. Although the two are not on the same level, they are better than sisters. What about Shoukeiku and Zwikaku? I know two of them. The older sister is gentle and the younger sister is more lively. Sure enough, all turpits in the world are the same, lazy and weak. She should be with her sister Bismarck, plus Xiaozai, and maybe Prince Eugen. Mutsu was lying on the edge of the pool, his plump breasts squeezing the tiles, thinking of his admiral. When I first joined the garrison, I took a second look at it and never took care of it again. It wasn't until a long time later that I remembered myself for some reason. I took away my Type -3 bombs, gave me a few pieces of equipment, and arranged to become a secretary ship, and participate in exercises with a group of people who were not taken too seriously, but were still regarded as capital ships. Although it can be said that the treatment is pretty good, compared to others. But he still didn't feel happy, because at that time he had completely turned into an admiral. He only arranged expeditions and exercises every day, but immediately disappeared and had no chance to talk. Doing these things is just a matter of habit, and maybe I don't even remember it. Mutsu, I became a secretary ship, and I like you. Mutsu put his hand to his chest and brushed his hair again, thinking that he was still very beautiful. Why did he fall to such a state? The dignified Big Seven, although his strength is a little weaker than those of Bismarck and Tirpitz, he can also be said to be very powerful. I don't know how many admirals are pursuing him, you bastard. Mutsu's head rested on the edge of the bathtub, showing a trace of grievance. There was no use thinking about it. How long had it been since we last saw each other? Mutsu, you are here. You are back too. Mutsu saw his comrades who were attacking together coming in. Yeah. You have such a nice figure. Mutsu was used to teasing people, and no one could tell what sad thing she was thinking about just now. Not as good as you. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-De-Rong Yan. Chapter 849. Sugu remembered that when he studied at Chuangziu Naval Academy, there were many elective courses in addition to the required courses. Among the elective courses are wireless electronics, repair and maintenance of household appliances, etiquette, handicrafts, philosophy and many more. There are a few classes that are different and that many people understand, including him, such as origami classes, singing children's songs, etc. After all, being an admiral is not a kindergarten teacher, so even elective classes are too weird. In fact, for admirals, these courses are quite important, but many newcomers don't know about them. He was young and ignorant before, so he didn't pay much attention to this aspect. As elective courses, he only took some decent-looking courses such as flower knowledge and simple chemistry. Who would have thought that destroyers are mostly little Lolita? They like those things. As long as you master that knowledge, you can effectively help salvage the destroyer. Later, I heard that a certain classmate learned those things and then mastered them. He had just graduated and successfully defeated many admirals and successfully abducted a rare destroyer with this skill. Every time I think of beating my feet and chest, I regret my mistakes. Thousands of paper cranes. Sugu held a paper crane folded from white paper in his palm. Although I didn't study hard in school, I usually like to play with the little girl from the townhouse. In order to show off, I still recharge my batteries. However, there is a lack of specialized and systematic learning, and the level is just like that. When you first get a glimpse of the door, you can only fold a few things. Look at my nails. Sugu folded a lot of paper nails and put them on his fingers one by one. One hand seemed to have extra claws, and then he reached out and grabbed the cute face of a little loli next to him. This little Lolita has a watermelon haircut, and her hair dances so cutely when she runs around. She is not Yukikaze, Ayanami, or even his kanji. Although my status is a bit awkward due to my lack of contribution, I am really not willing to participate, but I have no choice but to refuse. Anyway, I decided to attend the celebration party. Since it was a party, I didn't know when the night would end. In any case, there was definitely no way to go back on the same day. It was still a bit far away from Crane City. Fortunately, the guest house in the Kanyang branch has enough rooms, so accommodation is definitely not a problem. Afterwards, Changchun lay down on the bed in the room and expressed her desire to get some sleep, even though she got up very late during the day. Fubuki bought a book written by Daifeng from the library in Hesheng, and she wanted to continue reading. Everyone has something they want to do. Sugu planned to walk around the ship girl branch with his camera, and Fuzu accompanied him. Then he saw a group of little Lolita making origami in the pavilion. They were all so cute, and he immediately some thoughts became active. Think about it, although fishing for peak wind failed not long ago, it is impossible to fail every time. You're so stupid. You don't even know this. Let me teach you. You have to take a breath before throwing a paper airplane. Don't you know this? Look, this paper boat is beautiful. After having fun with a group of little Lolita for a while, Sugu saw that everyone was getting along pretty well and was quite familiar with them. He picked a cute and lively little blonde loli, who he felt would be easier to start with. Of course, he had already learned through some ins and outs in advance that she didn't have an admiral. Still hesitating how to start the attack, I saw that the little loli's dress was not exposed, but a tail was exposed from under the skirt, swinging around. At that time, he asked as if nothing had happened, "Why do you have a tail?" The little loli said, "Oh, I accidentally exposed it." Sugu was hypocritical. It's so rare to see a ship girl with a tail, What kind of ship girl are you? Little Beaver Squadron Dyson. Sugu almost wanted to shout hallelujah. He knew very well that the Dyson was a Fletcher class, and he had the Fletcher class sister. Speaking of which, I had thought about simply marrying Fletcher before. When meeting a Fletcher-level person, I could introduce myself as your brother-in-law to build a closer relationship. The idea lingered for a while. So it's not easy to get Dyson, well, it's still not that exaggerated, but at least it can increase by a lot of percentage points. He asked knowingly, Dyson, it should be Fletcher level. Yes, Dyson nodded, I am Fletcher level. Sugudong looked around, has Dyson seen Fletcher? The first ship of the Fletcher class, the eldest sister of the Fletcher class. No. Fletcher, who only appears in urban rumors. Sugu took a deep breath, I've seen him before. Does Dyson want to meet him? Having just finished speaking, Sugu felt that his intentions were too obvious and not so natural. It would be easy for people to find clues and fail. Sister Fletcher, a voice rang from the side, I want to see you, I want to see you. If you plant flowers intentionally, they will not bloom, but if you plant willows unintentionally, willows will provide shade. Sugu saw a red-haired little loli next to her. She wore round glasses. She was naturally very cute, but she was quite noisy from the beginning and liked to yell, so she was not prepared to be her first target. Are you also a Fletcher class? What type of battleship soul did you inherit? Willie, I'm Willie. Sugu only knew about Steamboat Willie, the world's first audio animation, but the ship girl named Willie had never heard of it. She obviously had learned a lot about ships, so she had no impression at all. Who knows about Willie? Dyson spoke at this time. She complained about the little loli, then turned to look at Sugu, she is William D. Porter. Sugu paused, how could the William D. Porter not know the existence of the famous bombardment headquarters? If Swafeng brings bad luck to people, it can also be said to be metaphysical, because he is quiet and cute and never causes trouble to others. But when she brings misfortune to others, it's really her own mischief and mischief. After all, the naughty child among naughty children can't be more rugged. Sugu hesitated. To be honest, it might not be possible to get this naughty kid back. When I was a child, I often struggled, when I grow up, should I go to Tsinghua University or Peking University? When I grew up, I realized that I really thought too much. Whether it's Dyson, William D. Porter, or whoever it is, it's not that easy to get away with. When he was walking on the square not long after, Sugu was dejected, the world is declining and people's hearts are not as old as they used to be. I have said so much, but they said nothing. When they heard that Fletcher was far away, they immediately shook their heads. Failure, what a big failure. I failed so many times. Fuzang, please give me a hug. I'm really sad. In this materialistic society, people's hearts are cold and heartless. Okay, Fuzang said softly. Of course she knew it was just a joke. She was not used to it at first, but now she has no problem at all. Forget it, if we really hug him, Fuzang will definitely hit him. Sugu thought to himself that even if he hugged Fuzang, she would definitely not say anything. At most, she would be shy and blush. Sure enough, she was still too timid. So I am timid, otherwise, by now, there are only a few wedding ships. There are only a dozen or so. It is easy to start with 2 characters, and it is a piece of cake to start with 3 characters. In other words, it is a bit difficult to start with 4 characters. Fuzang said, no way. Really hugged. Hug me. Well, Fuzu, you win. I didn't expect you to become like this. With this in mind, Sugu changed the subject. At the celebration party tonight, has Fuzu worn a dress? No. You don't just have a kimono and a yukata, do you? What I'm wearing now is a dress. Yasugu looked at Fuzang and saw that she was wearing a white dress with the hem just above her knees and stroppy white sandals underneath. She was young and beautiful. I remembered again, the first time, when we met again, I saw the clothes you were wearing at that time were so beautiful. I was completely amazed. Really, it was clear that the sentence was not a joke, so Fuzu was a little shy. Of course it's fine now, but it feels like a wide-brimmed hat. Oh, Fuzu touched his hair. Fuzu is very beautiful. Don't be like Ise Hinata, who only likes colorful and bright clothes that only middle-aged and elderly people like. Sugu said. Of course, don't be like the left-behind Jeanne d'Arc, who always has her hair tied up. She wears braids, dresses simply, and dresses like a village girl. Fuzu was confused. Joan of Arc. Sugu paused when he saw Fuzang's expression. Hey, Fuzang, don't tell me that you don't recognize her. Even if those little guys don't recognize her, it's too much for you not to know, even though she does have no sense of existence. She should be from the legal system. Fuzang's face blushed and she thought about it. Yes, Advisor Su, what legal systems are there in the garrison? Richelieu, Fantasy, Joan of Arc, and then? You can't be saved, Sugu said. There is also the destroyer Walkerland and the artillery submarine Sukuf. Is Joan of Arc a battleship? It's really hopeless. Sugu waved his hand. He's a light cruiser. He's a bit of a bad guy by accident. He likes to say that he only has this gun, the Red Lotus fire, punishing evil and eradicating evil, and so on. Even though all the ship girls are naturally beautiful, with smooth, fair, and delicate skin, they still need to put on makeup to make them more beautiful. Nagato never wore makeup, his long hair was tied into a ponytail, and his clothes were mostly military uniforms. Mutsu is different. His long hair is tied up with a few hairpins. He has already put foundation on his face. He is sitting in front of the dressing table with an eyebrow pencil to draw his eyebrows. Eyeshadow and eyeliner are also required, and blush is also a must. Now, finally, lipstick. You're so beautifully dressed. Which admiral have you fallen in love with? Nagato couldn't help but tease. Nagato had never told Nagato that he had an admiral. Mutsu touched his lips with his finger. The admirals who can come this time are basically European admirals. Those who only have light cruisers and destroyers don't need them to join in the fun. Let's take this opportunity to choose an admiral who pleases me. When Mutsu said this, Nagato knew she was joking. If you are not going to find the admiral, why are you dressing up so beautifully? I am the dignified Big Seven Mutsu. Which garrison do you want to join? Can anyone refuse? Mutsu reached out and touched his forehead and cheeks, trying not to have any blemishes on his face, and said, I don't dress up carefully to please others, but to love yourself better. When he is alone at home, his hair is as messy as a chicken coop. He is just slovenly. He walks around in pajamas and slippers. He has no standing or sitting posture. He scratches his neck and scratches his stomach. He has no image at all. Who is this person from? Mutsu bit his lip, a slight blush appearing on his face. I think clean and tidy is enough. Mutsu said, you're one of those old-fashioned people who sees a girl dressed nicer and thinks it's to seduce a man. I didn't say you were trying to seduce a man. We have different values, Mutsu said. I can't explain it to you. Mutsu looked at Nagato and suddenly thought of something. She blinked. Nagato, let me do your makeup too. Nagato crossed his arms and said, please forgive me for refusing. Mutsu held his cheek with one hand and said seductively, as long as you agree, I can call you sister. Although it was the first and second ships of the Nagato class, Nagato had the impression that Mutsu had never called her sister. When she hesitated, Mutsu had already stood up and walked behind her, putting his hands on her shoulders. Pushing forward, pressing in front of the dressing table, Sister Nagato, let me help you. You are so beautiful, but you are always so casual. Let me help you put on makeup, change into a dress, and make everyone else look like you shocked. Don't be ridiculous, Nagato scolded her, but Mutsu's Nagato sister just made her feel powerless. Mutsu leaned into Nagato's ear, I guarantee that everyone can't help but say oh when they see you. Nagato felt a little uneasy and wanted to get up, but Mutsu pressed her shoulder, sister, 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 Nagato sister, it's agreed. Nagato finally gave in, okay, I remind you not to mess around. Mutsu smiled happily and helped Nagato put on makeup. I said I don't want to put on makeup, but you have a lot of makeup here. A gift from someone else. But they've all been opened. Nagato was silent. After all, she was a girl and didn't like makeup, but she still tried it for a while. After struggling for a while, Mutsu finally finished it. Okay, let's open your eyes and take a look. Has it become more beautiful? Nagato looked at himself in the mirror. There was no thick foundation or bright lipstick, just simple but not simple light makeup. He was a little prettier than usual. When Mutsu saw that Nagato was wearing a military uniform, she curled her lips, opened the closet, and rummaged through. Why don't there be any uniforms? Unnecessary. Someone will give you cosmetics, but no one will give you a dress. No. I want to ask someone to borrow one. Mutsu tapped his lips. Hyakata is the butler. She is responsible for decorating the party. She should know about the dress and other things. Time passed quickly, and soon it got dark, and the celebration party began with lively shouts. Mutsu was sitting in the corner and became amused when he saw Nagato making an opening speech with a slight blush on his face, and then nervously raising his glass and saying polite words to each of the admirals. Drinking wine casually, dismissing a few admirals who came to talk to him, Mutsu suddenly saw a familiar figure when he glanced at the admirals. He was in a daze for a moment, and his eyes quickly turned back. No, it's impossible. She rubbed her eyes and found that it was not an hallucination. Then she saw that the other person saw her and looked at each other without any expression, so it was just a similarity. But what was that throbbing? Mutsu. Mutsu turned around and was stunned again. Fuzu. It's me. Mutsu looked at Fuzu and then at a certain person, still confused. Fuzu was surprised that he actually met his former companion here. I came here with the admiral, and there he is. Mutsu squatted on the ground and patted his head gently, unable to believe it. Fuzu explained. Mutsu said, he should have seen me just now. The two-dimensional and three-dimensional are so different that they cannot be recognized. Sugu had vaguely explained before that after getting up from the sea, he couldn't remember many things. At first, he couldn't even recognize Xiaozai. Fuzang repeated Sugu's words. That's it, Mutsu said as he stood up and was about to walk over. He saw Suguhan talking to a group of admirals, and then sitting alone in the corner. He turned to Fuzu and said, don't tell him that I am here. Mutsu shook his wine glass and smiled like a devil. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 850. Ayanami has no interest in attending the celebration party, and Fubuki has no interest either. She has read half of her book, and now she has become Daifeng's little crush. All in all, only a few people attended in the end. Changchun never knew what politeness was. There was no way to refuse the wine and meat. Fuzu was strongly requested by Sugu. After all, there was no way to expect Changchun to be honest. Although it was not a very rare battleship, it was just with her plump bust, she can show off her body everywhere. Nagato, it really shocked me. He took Fuzang to show off, and then asked her to watch Changchun and not let the girl act too randomly. The main thing is for a few admirals to share their experiences, and having a ship girl around is really not a good influence. As a man, he went to some strange places while talking. Sugu glanced at the male admiral next to him. That was Naoto Nohara, the admiral of Lianghe County. The other party's garrison has some strength and is not far from here. It is not a coincidence that it appears here. Then he looked at Nagato, who was surrounded by a group of admirals in the middle of the hall. The woman in his impression was majestic and handsome. This time, she had her long hair tied up high, wearing a gem pendant and pearl necklace, paired with a dark purple fishtail skirt. There are many suitors, but no one has succeeded. I don't know who will get the advantage in the future. Naoto Nohara shook his wine glass. Sugu thought of the company. He had known each other for several years and had used so many methods. Whether it was personally taking action, sending his sisters, York City, Bumblebee, or good friends and best friends, Missouri couldn't do it at all, I don't know. But it must be difficult. It's difficult. For a ship girl like this who is the boss of a ship girl branch, it's not just meeting an admiral she falls in love with, she also needs someone to take on her own responsibilities, otherwise she won't be able to leave without worry. If it's Nagato, Naoto Nohara said, she is only responsible for combat effectiveness. Most of the matters in the Kenmue branch are handled by Hayabusa, the chief steward, who is still handled by many people in the command team. She is usually only responsible for signing and sealing enough. Sugu immediately thought of himself, what matter had been dealt with by the secretaries, ships Lexington, Washington, and the reputation of the maid chief. Although everyone talked about faith, beacons, etc., it was just a mascot. The responsibility for combat effectiveness is also the responsibility for combat effectiveness, not it's so easy to leave. That's right. Nohara Naoto nodded, having to admit this. Nobu Kimura, an admiral with dazzling blonde hair and a hooked nose, is obviously a mixed race from his appearance, and a friend of Nohara Nohara. Nagato is very difficult, but apart from her, there are many ship girls at this celebration party, don't be too persistent. Look at the one by the window, the Tsuru Castle Combat Team Hyaga, there is no admiral. The one in red is a ship girl mercenary, and there is no admiral. On the left, and on the left, the one who looks very lustful, I don't know what model it is, and I don't know where it is from. I didn't come here a few days ago. I came here only after the general attack in the past 2 days. I heard from my ship's wife that it is also a battleship, and it is very strong. Sugu looked over and found that the other party was also looking over. He looked at each other and turned his head, his heart skipping a beat. Kimura Nobu did not hide it. He looked to the side and continued, the one standing alone at the door is the Oklahoma. Kimura Shin said a lot, and Sugu looked around. After saying so much, we are all sitting here, and no one takes action. What action? Take the initiative to strike up a conversation and then fish the boat. Sugu said, are you waiting for the ship girl to come to your door? Why are you waiting for the ship girl to come to your door? Nohara Naoto patted Sugu's shoulder, and put his arm on his shoulder. A powerful admiral, even if he does nothing, there will still be a ship girl who takes the initiative to strike up a conversation. Sengoku Masami, my schoolgirl, she just doesn't do anything. She's the kind of admiral who waits for the ship girl to come to her door. She's a battleship and an aircraft carrier. Sugu said, so awesome. Yes, so powerful. Nohara Naoto sighed, cute, really cute. She is over 20 years old, and she still looks like a little girl. She makes people look very protective. Some ship girls regard her as, my sister took care of her, and then joined her town. The ship girl also saw her and wanted to bully her. Of course, she is the kind that only I can bully and you can't bully her. After a while, she also joined her town. It's so irritating to compare people to each other. Sugu thought to himself, why didn't I? Nohara Naoto looked at Sugu, he knew the details of Sugu. Why do you have the nerve to say such things? Xianghe Ziwahi, Tirpitz, Tianlong, and Ryuada, eat spears, European dog admiral. Sugu modestly said, actually, my luck is average. Nohara Naoto smiled, forget it, I won't tell you, that's right. This is why everyone strongly requested a celebration party, let me see who is better to find. Naohara Nohara and Nobukimura were gone, and Sugu looked around, trying to find the two little girls in the afternoon, Dyson and William D. Porter. I feel that if I use more snacks, there will still be no problem in fishing the boat. However, after looking for a long time, I didn't see it. Hello. Just when Sugu stood up and decided to return to Fuzu with his wine glass in hand, he heard a voice and turned around to see the unknown model of battleship that Kimura Nobu originally mentioned sitting next to him. The hair that was originally tied up was let down, falling on her shoulders and draped behind her back. She was already sexy, but now she added a bit of charm. Hello. Where are you, the Admiral? Mutsu stroked his hair and looked at Sugu, taking a deep breath and suppressing some impulses. Although I heard Fuzang's explanation, teasing is inevitable and the opportunity is rare. Chuanqiu Sugu is already familiar with this. After all, Missouri likes to seduce people the most. In terms of charm and aura, compared to, the two of them are still equally matched opponents. In short, they don't look like brother pig. His voice plainly, you know Chuangziu, it's a small county next to Chuangziu. It turns out he is an admiral from such a far away place, Mutsu said, no wonder I haven't seen him before. Let me just say, there is no such handsome and charming admiral here. Really, Sugu didn't blush and then stammered, thanking Missouri again, you still have vision. Mutsu covered his mouth and laughed. Although in my own mind, the admiral is the most handsome person. But strictly speaking, my admiral is only above average. At the same time, Sugu looked at Lueo. Because he had drunk some wine, he was slightly drunk, with red cheeks, peach blossoms, wine-colored lips, and charming eyes, all reflecting the charm of a woman. It's a bit hot. Mutsu deliberately patted his chest, then pulled his collar, revealing the unfathomable ravine in it. Sugu was attracted immediately. After all, he was a man, so how could he refuse? Of course, he is not a pervert, and when he encounters such a small benefit, he can't wait to come and see it, although no one in the guardhouse believes it and slanders him repeatedly. However, before he turned his head, Mutsu had already stretched out his hand to block the collar of his clothes. This admiral is really good at peeking. Being caught in the act, Sugu was still a little embarrassed. What's the matter? Can't you come if you don't have something to do? Mutsu said, can't you just talk? Extremely happy. Mutsu said, although she is a kanji, she currently works in an izakaya. Go and see it if you have the chance. It must be great, Sugu thought to himself, could he be here to advertise? After all, the only time someone called me handsome was when I was visiting a store or handing out flyers on the street. Although he is leaving tomorrow, he will definitely not go to any izakaya, so it does not prevent him from joking, well, such a handsome admiral is here. Are there any discounts? There must be discounts. Of course, Mutsu said, how much discount do you want? We can't have two sets of menus, Sugu said, at least 50% off. Mutsu said, then we agreed, 50% off, 50% off. Can I regret it? A grown man shouldn't be so petty. Sugu smiled. Mutsu clenched the wine glass. She looked at Sugu, thinking that it was really like what Fuzu said, and she couldn't recognize herself. Did you know? What do you know? I hate it. I actually hate it. I just don't know what to do, so I opened an izakaya. Sugu said, I don't know what to do, so I'd better develop some hobbies. Flower arranging, tea art, and many more. I have tried them all, but I have no interest in them all. Mutsu blinked. Many people say that a ship girl has no home without an admiral, no matter how good she is. She's a wandering ship girl, otherwise she'd better join the garrison, maybe she can find something she wants to do. Sugu looked at the woman holding her chin with her fingers crossed, and her heart skipped a beat, remembering what Naoto Nohara said just now, if you meet the right person, joining the governor's house might be an option. What is liking? If you ask me, I don't know either. Did your heart beat so hard when you saw him? Roughly the same. So that's it. Matsu looked at Sugu with a seductive look in his eyes. I think I found him. He was at a loss for a moment, but Sugu was not a narcissistic person. Even though he occasionally liked to say narcissistic words, they were all just joking. I even thought that my level was not good enough in the past countless times, but then I heard people say that for me, as an admiral, I am pretty good. I know all kinds of knowledge, I don't have any machismo, I don't boss around, I am a bit confident. So no matter what, I understand that we have just met each other and will not believe this kind of thing. Who is he? Far away, yet so close. Even though he knew there was no one around him, Sugu looked around. I didn't see anyone. Matsu cupped his cheeks, then pointed a finger at Sugu. Sugu stared at Matsu. Although he was a little moved, his heart remained clear. A smile appeared on the corner of my mouth. If you continue to play, I don't mind continuing, that's an honor. So perfunctory, I mean it. Sugu nodded vigorously. Yeah, I understand. How can I prove it before you believe it? No need to prove it, I believe it, I really believe it. I'm serious, Matsu said. I told you that my heart fell in love as soon as I saw you and that I fell in love at first sight. You must not believe it. Although we have just met, I feel that you are very good, better than everyone here. It can be said that you are the best choice for an admiral. Am I wrong? You are actually a very bad admiral. Sugu said, I am a very good admiral. If I believe it, there will be a ghost. Thinking like this, Matsu smiled. Tell me about it. It's hard for me to say it. What I said is that Wangpo is selling her own melons and boasting. I still need my ship girl to tell you what a good admiral I am to be convincing, Sugu said, but there are one thing I can tell you is that my ambition is not to build the most powerful garrison, but to build a garrison that makes everyone happy. Matsu said, that's incredible. Sugu suddenly felt a little bored, and wanted to kidnap some little loli. Okay, let's be honest, I don't remember messing with anyone here. Who asked you to come here to tease me? This kind of thing is very boring. LA. It's so annoying, why don't I believe it? Matsu said, isn't it okay to be empty and lonely? You know, loneliness is the most deadly thing. Even if you are lonely, just find two friends. It's different. Friends and admirals are different. Matsu thought to himself that it was really difficult to deal with. It was so difficult to tease him. I originally thought that he would not be able to find Bae if he just said it casually. He seemed to be very sober, so he came up with a trick. I really want to find an admiral. If you want to ask why, what should I tell you? Matsu tried to organize his words in his mind. What should he say better? Occasionally I see Kanji and the admiral together, sitting together on a bench under the setting sun. They don't say anything, but their faces are full of happiness and peace of mind. This is something you never do when you are with friends. If you are friends, if two people are together and don't talk and just sit, you will feel that the atmosphere will become very awkward, and you will try to find a topic. I have heard the ship girl I know complain many times about how bad her admiral is and what annoying things she has done, but looking at her expression, she is not angry at all. It is clear that if she agrees, the other party will definitely. She turned against him. My admiral, I said yes, but you said absolutely not. She really likes the admiral, even if her admiral is really a bit bad. I also know a ship girl who speaks and talks about the admiral. What did the admiral do today? What did the admiral say today? Ask me about the admiral, I don't know anything. The admiral told me that this won't work. In short, it seems that he has left the admiral. Nothing works. A child with a mother is like a treasure, and I think she is a treasure with an admiral. What would it be like if I also had an admiral? By the way, and also, I know one. He had already thought about when to turn, until he took the bait, and how to tease people. Mutsu gradually fell silent as he spoke. She didn't want to play anymore. She suddenly didn't want to play anymore. She looked at Sugu and bit his lip, stretched out his arms and put his arms around his neck, pressing down with all his weight. Admiral, do you really not remember me? I am Luo. Although it is not tens of thousands of tons, it is just the weight of an ordinary person. As the saying goes, if you weigh less than 100, you are either flat-chested or short. Mutsu has a tall figure, a perfect match for a royal sister, and her bust is plump enough, so she weighs a lot. When Sugu felt the hug, he was a little confused and didn't react for a while. Plop. In the end, the two fell to the ground. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 851. Is everything okay? It's okay. After saying that, Sugu touched the back of his head with his right hand and rubbed it gently, making close contact with the ground. Let me see. Mutsu stood up, with a worried look on her face. She was just joking, and she was annoyed that she had thrown the admiral so hard in her excitement. Sugu saw that Luo was leaning over and his collar was not guarded at all, and he suddenly remembered a sentence: when you stare into the abyss is also staring at you. It's okay, it's really okay. Mutsu insisted on watching and found nothing wrong, so he sat down with peace of mind. At that time, when he saw Sugu turning his head, he suddenly thought of something, chuckled, and said with charming eyes, "Is the admiral still a pure little boy?" Sugu thought of Mutsu's arms around him just now, the soft and delicate body against his body, and the warm and soft touch against his chest. It was indeed voluptuous. In fact, he doesn't have any blushes. After all, he is already experienced. I don't know how many dirty jokes and black words he knows. Even the old Sig Bazai is no match. He can easily make the truly innocent little maid cover her ears by saying, "Who call me a gentleman?" Although we haven't seen each other for a long time, there is not much unfamiliarity. After all, the admiral and the ship's wife are just the same. I'm just worried that I wasn't taken seriously in the past, but now I can't help but feel warm to the face and cold to the bottom. But what Fuzu said, especially the conversation just now, makes people believe that the admiral has really changed a lot. Mutsu crossed his arms and said, "How can people believe this?" Obviously they had just met and there was no sense of unfamiliarity. Sugu smiled and said, "Whether you believe it or not, this is the fact." Mutsu just stretched out his hand and broke off a finger. Sugu knew what she wanted to do and spoke in advance: "Stop counting, stop talking about the past, harassing Helena, poking her breasts, or arranging the big broken archerfish as a secretary ship and staring at her butt. All of this is in the past. The 3 days of separation should be treated with admiration. The person I am now is no longer the person I used to be." "So you have done so many things, I know." Mutsu held his cheeks and nodded repeatedly. Yasugu just responded, exhaled through his nose, and laughed. "Everyone has already mastered this trick of yours." "I don't understand what you are saying," Mutsu said. "What are you doing? It's impossible that you don't know what I've done before, and you still pretend to suddenly realize it. Do you think I will regret it and hate myself for talking too much? I have heard Ruhi say a long time ago that you like to tease people the most." Sugu thought to himself that there were so many people in the garrison, and there were so many people with the character of little devils, they were countless, and their favorite thing was to tease themselves, with endless methods. "It turns out it was that little girl Ziwihi who ruined my good deeds," Mutsu said funnily. "Admiral, does he know?" "Ziwihi, she has always been against you on the surface, but in fact she likes you very much. She is just arrogant." Sugu didn't know whether to say it or not, but finally spoke. "I know she likes me, and then, she is already my wedding ship. No way. Mutsu was really surprised. Real? Where's Shokaku? When you get married, Ruhi must be Xianghe. All of you are like this. Sugu said, no. So partial. Sugu said, it's not that I'm partial, she refused. You gave her the ring and she said no. Right. No way. Mutsu said, Xianghe would actually reject the admiral. That is the truth. Okay. Sugu originally thought that Mutsu would ask who else he was married to. Mutsu nodded, looked at himself and blinked, clasping his hands on the side of his face. Forget about Xianghe, does Admiral know? I like you too. Even though I couldn't remember many things in the garrison before, it was just a game after all. But later I heard a lot from everyone, and Sugu recalled a lot. Mutsu still arranged to become the secretaryship. If the favor was enough, there would be absolutely no problem in giving out the ring. In addition, we arranged to participate in many exercises. After all, it is Big 7. Historically speaking, it is very powerful. There are Nelson and Rodney in the front, and Colorado in the back. There is still the possibility of transformation in the future. Remind you, men are beasts, don't tempt me. Mutsu stretched out his hand and hooked his index finger on the collar of his clothes again. It's a little hot again. No, it's not the number 3 turret that's overheating. Sugu turned away from Mutsu, pretending to be scared. The reason was that there was a sudden explosion near the number 3 turret of the Mutsu moored at Hiroshima Bay Pillar Island. The turret flew to the same height as the bridge. It was also emphasized that it was an illegal architectural bridge height, and the hull instantly broke into 2 pieces. The front section flipped to starboard and sank almost immediately. Admiral, don't go too far. When Mutsu heard Sugu's words, he immediately slapped the table and shouted. But then he started laughing. After all, a battleship is a battleship, and now everyone is a ship girl. Many things are just jokes and there is no need to worry about it. I also want to give benefits to the admiral. Since the admiral is not willing, then forget it. Sugu clasped his hands together. I was wrong, please. I won't give it to you. If you miss it, you won't come back. Mutsu didn't have anything and let go of his hand. Admiral likes to stare at people's skirts when the wind blows, and stare at people's collars when they bend over. He said it's not the case. Pervert. Sugu curled his lips, thinking that it is not as good as Missouri. She is more bold. I really overestimate you. He paused for a moment. Missouri, Missouri, Missouri. In the beginning, her teasing was limited to her mouth, and she was nothing more than a talkative king. Now it has completely changed. Mutsu noticed Sugu's thoughtful expression. What do you think, Admiral? It's nothing. Sugu thought for a while and said, actually, you have noticed me a long time ago and came here to tease me. I was shocked when I saw the Admiral from a distance, and then I met Fuzu. I see. I told you that you are so sure it's me, and you're not afraid of getting the wrong person. The Admiral has been the Admiral for so long, don't you know it? Mutsu said, even in the face of twins, Kanji will never mistake the Admiral. Sugu scratched his head. There were too many things that could not be explained between the Admiral and the ship girl. Admiral, I don't know everyone anymore. Mutsu said, yeah, let's tease you, it's so fun. You also said, are you really not afraid that I will wear small shoes for you? Sugu showed a vicious face, a self-righteous and vicious face, because it is usually difficult to scare people, even if they are little Lolita. Then again, when little Loli makes mistakes, he is usually the red-faced one, while Helena is the white-faced one, so everyone believes that the Admiral is the best. Fuzu, too, actually cooperates with you, both of them are good, cannot be less. What kind of shoes are you wearing? Mutsu asked. Take off your equipment and you are not allowed to attack. Good idea. Take off your clothes and lock yourself in the room. No. So responsive. Don't think about traps all the time, Sugu responded. I kept forgetting to ask you, why are you here? Mutsu held the side of his face with one hand and covered the wine glass with the other, then grabbed it and shook it. I told you, we're opening an izakaya here. The admiral has agreed to come and take care of it. I'll give the admiral a 50% discount. I am your admiral, why do I still charge you? Now I know it's the admiral. Mutsu looked at Sugu sideways. When Sugu showed some guilt, she briefly explained why she was here as the owner of an izakaya. Sugu said, you and Nagato, you have only known each other in the past 2 years. Yes. I'm just telling you why I didn't see you last time. Seeing Mutsu's confused look, Sugu explained that he went to Lianghe County almost 2 years ago, encountered a defensive battle, and met Nagato. It turns out she was talking about you, Mutsu responded. What happened? Mutsu explained, and she looked towards Nagato not far away. As if there was a connection between them, Nagato looked over at this time. So she waved and hugged Sugu's arm until Nagato looked surprised and turned to Sugu. Nagato is beautiful. Yes, Sugu admitted that Nagato was quite cool. I helped her put on makeup and I helped her choose clothes, Mutsu said. Mutsu was silent for a moment and narrowed his eyes. Admiral, do you like it? Sugu recalled the time in the past when he met Nagato for the first time. Ziwakaku said, Nagato, the admiral might as well get her. Recalling how I answered that time, when I find Mutsu in the future, please ask her. When he didn't know it was Mutsu, a beautiful ship girl he didn't know took the initiative to strike up a conversation. He didn't believe it. He didn't have that charm. After all, even if many ship girls knew him and knew how powerful his garrison was, they did not come to surrender. It can be said that she is half indomitable, but her main purpose is to challenge, but unfortunately it is not such a coincidence. She met the cook Xianghe and was brutally tortured. But for so long, getting rich has depended on ship girls. Starting from Zeppelin, Cushing, Hindenburg, Kaio, and Shinano are all the same. You can trust this. Once again, the Prince of Wales was criticized by name, neither King George V nor the Duke of York. So at this time I couldn't help but feel a little excited and my heart was beating hard. Do you have any idea? Mutsu smiled half-heartedly. What do you think? Cat cannon, Mk6, and Type 91 armor-piercing bullets, you can fire them as you please. If you can't bear to let go of your children, you can't trap the wolf. Sugu waved his hand and thought, if Nagato joins the garrison, it will mean that the wealth will not go to outsiders. Man, Admiral. Mutsu shook his head, I would give up everything for the newcomers to join the tutelage. The old man works hard in the tutelary and has nothing. Sugu was speechless for a moment. Mutsu said, no, even if you promise equipment, joining the garrison is not as simple as joining a company. I know it's not that easy. I don't ask her to join the garrison. I just want her to come and see our garrison. Once she comes, she won't be able to leave. Sugu thought to himself that Hindenburg's joining the garrison was not just a random temptation from Missouri. That's good. She has lived in the governor's mansion for a long time and gradually adapted to life. Besides, she is also a good admiral in her own right, so she finally accepted it. But for now, it can only be regarded as recognizing a lord. Good impression is just that, and there is not much closeness. Mutsu originally just thought it was fun. He and Nagato were good friends. Although Nagato and Mutsu were not good sisters, they didn't have that much influence. After hearing what his admiral said, I remembered that Nagato had talked about Tirpitz. Although he was quite dissatisfied with her laziness, he was full of admiration when he talked about how powerful she was. Maybe she actually had some maneuverability. Mutsu. Since Sugu and Mutsu were sitting in the corner of the hall, even if they fell, they did not overturn the tables and chairs, so they did not cause much movement. Only some people nearby heard the noise and looked over. The main reason why Nagato saw Mutsu later was that she gave him a funny look and then hugged the arm of the man next to her, looking intimate. So I wanted to come over and ask, what's going on? Mutsu rested his head on Sugu's shoulder. Nagato, what do you think of the admiral I'm looking for? Nagato believed that Mutsu was not a child and had his own judgment. He thought that Mutsu might join the garrison in the future, but in any case not so soon, and he was not a little girl. She turned her gaze to Sugu, trying to discern some clues from Sugu's face. Mutsu said, Sister Nagato, don't you think he is handsome? I want to join his garrison, and I want to be his ship girl. Yeah, I fell in love with him, it was love at first sight. Mutsu looked at Sugu and threatened with his eyes, Admiral, have you agreed that you will take care of me for the rest of your life? Of course, this cannot be denied. Sugu nodded, it's agreed. Mutsu hugged Sugu's arms tighter, and didn't mind the squeezing of her breasts at all. She said, we agreed to give me cat cannons, Mk6, and Type 91 armor-piercing bullets, right? It was not agreed at all. Sugu found Nagato staring at him closely with sharp eyes, and thought for a moment, it's agreed. We agreed, give me the ring, love me forever, and break off all the weddings I've had before. Well, it doesn't matter whether we break up or not. I'm the eldest wife anyway. Mutsu said, and he burst into laughter. It's getting more and more ridiculous, Sugu thought to himself. The position of the eldest wife will always be Lexington, and of course Zai is an outsider. He looked at Nagato and explained, we know each other, we know each other. Nagato suddenly understood, but still didn't understand. It wasn't until Mutsu explained that she finally understood the cause and effect. The three of them talked for a while, someone came to see Nagato, and she left. The light in the hall dimmed at this time, and a moment later a bright circle appeared in the center of the hall, with a black-haired, flat-chested girl in a red dress standing there holding a microphone. Mutsu said, Nagato can't guarantee it, but what she said is fine. Green leaves are green. It turned out that Fuzang was coming. Sugu hesitated for a moment and was very surprised. Did Kingyi become an idol? Sugu raised his hands in the air, but I still want to say, Quincy-kun. Quincy first. Via. //ovo/. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 852. Some people don't understand what the truth of the world is. Mutsu, being Japanese, couldn't stand the American. She heard Sugu's words, is Quincy that good? Although he is a little ruthless, Sugu leaned on the back of the sofa, crossed his legs, and spread his thumb and index finger slightly. Quincy is still better. He's just an idiot, Mutsu said bluntly. Although he is an idiot, he is super cute, Sugu laughed, not to mention going out. He usually stayed in the guard's mansion. In addition to touching Xiaoze's head, rubbing Xiaoze's face, and giving Xiaoze a hug, the above omit 10,000 words and still feed Quincy, no matter what New Orleans says next to him, such as Admiral, you are going too far and Aquin is not a pet. Aoba is cute too. Sugu's eyes fell on Kingyi in the middle of the hall, and he saw that her dress was not much different from the one in the game called Red and White Idol Battle. Wearing a red headband with a bow on her head. Her long hair hangs down behind her, black and straight, flowing down like a waterfall. A red dress that exposed the girl's smooth shoulders, decorated with little angel wings, long gloves, long stockings, and boots. He didn't go up directly, because the girl was already ready to start singing. Now she had a microphone in her hand and started singing along with the accompanying music. Her singing voice was a bit naughty. He was already dancing in a small but dynamic dance, with the soles of his boots tapping the ground, making a methodical tapping sound. I admit that Aoba is quite cute, but Quincy is cuter. This is probably heartless. I saw Mutsu holding his hands, making his already quite plump and majestic bust even more swollen. Of course, compared to Fuzu, who was watching Aoba's performance intently next to her, I'm not pointing it at me, I'm saying that everyone here is rubbish. Okay, Aoba's breasts are a little too small. I remember King Yi, well, she had a swimsuit like that. Sugu chuckled. He thought of King Yi's swimsuit painting. Where his name should be written on the blue dead water, there was those huge breasts are so funny. However, judging from the swimsuit, she is still a bit large, not Veneto and others, but still a little better than the cat ear level. Mutsu lowered her head, made signs on her chest, smiled, and looked at Sugu. Admiral, do you know how to pay attention to others? It's so obvious, it's hard not to think about it. After Sugu finished speaking, he thought of Kinyagaza again. She was clearly the older sister of the two of them. Her wealth was quite rich compared to Aoba's, at least 2 cups more. Judging from the large standing picture, even though it is bandaged, it is still quite conspicuous. AI is here, why don't you see Kinyagaza? Mutsu replied, she didn't come. Sugu asked doubtfully, why? She's not an idol, she can't do jumping around. Isn't today a celebration party? Sugu thought to himself, since he participated in the battle, it was natural for him to appear here. I invited her, but she didn't participate in the attack, so she was embarrassed to come. Mutsu said, Aoba and Kinyagaza, their training level is still too low, and they don't have much equipment. Sugu frowned and thought about it. Why is Jaguru an idol? Because he has no fighting power at all, he can't do anything high or low, at least until he gives up. There is absolutely nothing useful in the activity. At first, I only trained the Wichita, Prince Eugen, and Quincy. The other heavy cruisers that could be modified were more or less modified, such as Admiral Hipper, Blucher, etc., so I ignored them. He ignored the remaining heavy cruisers that could not be modified. Actually, I didn't participate in the battle, but I came anyway. It's a bit shameless to think about it. Mutsu tilted his head and blinked, pretending to be surprised. Didn't the Admiral participate in the battle? No, Sugu didn't understand what he meant. It's too late. Yeah, I participated in the battle. Even though I didn't participate from the beginning, I got the most results, even more than Nagato. Mutsu nodded his chest and added, then you are my Admiral. What you said makes sense. Now I have some confidence. Sugu suddenly laughed, a bit maliciously. Many people don't know that I am your Admiral. They know that I just came, and then, I obviously did not participate in the battle, but participated in the celebration party. Not only that, but he also took away the most dazzling star of the entire party, the most beautiful and powerful Mutsu, which is a heinous crime. The most dazzling star, the most powerful, and the most beautiful Mutsu. Mutsu smiled, the Admiral is really good at talking. It's okay, Sugu thought to himself, now he was also a master at coaxing girls. Forget about the others, the main thing is that my sister-in-law Saratoga likes to hear it and pesters her every day. He looked around and saw that there were many people looking at him with envy and jealousy in their eyes. Especially Naoto Nohara and the newly acquainted Nobukimura. They knew some inside information, but not enough, so they were all aggressive. Mutsu hugged Sugu's arm again. Do you want me to cooperate with you and show you some sun here and there? Sugu said, good idea. There weren't many people in the hall originally. Even though they were sitting in the corner, everyone didn't hide in the darkness deliberately, so it was still easy to spot. Sugu had been paying attention to King Yi. He saw him when she was halfway through a song, her voice paused obviously, and she finally picked up, King Yi, she saw me. You must not believe it. Probably Sugu noticed that King Yi glanced at him from time to time when he was singing. He probably really doubted whether he saw it wrong, so he stretched out his hand and waved. Mutsu sat next to Sugu. Aoba's song came to an end. She bumped his shoulder with her shoulder. It's pretty good. It's better than Quincy. Don't underestimate Quincy, Sugu said. He used to be at the front line base and performed everywhere every day. Sugu thought about the people in his own townhouse. Prince Eugen was responsible for purchasing every day. Since Quincy returned to the townhouse, his daily life was about eating, playing and sleeping, rarely performing. To be honest, Aoba's singing skills are really that good. It was just a song, and he was completely attracted by the fans. As expected, he went on the idol tour again. Aoba, is she really an idol here? Mutsu waved his hand. No, she also works in the izakaya, she just comes out to sing when needed. What? Why don't you try hard to become an idol and let the whole world know about your existence? When the admiral comes back one day, he will be able to find himself immediately. Sugu thought to himself, he was the one, having defeated the deep-sea flagship twice, asked the company to help publicize it, just for the companions who originally guarded the mansion to find out that he was back. It's just a pity that it was somewhat useful at first, but now the effect is getting worse and worse, and now I'm not too keen on it. Mutsu said bluntly, who do you think you are, is important. Sugu patted his chest, it's me, the dignified admiral. Mutsu said, I think he is just an admiral. Kingyi stopped looking at Sugu, and she continued to sing her own song, at least not out of tune. The song ended soon, and the lights in the hall were slightly brighter. Sugu saw her walking towards him, and soon stood in front of him, motionless, with a complicated expression. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 853. The hall for the celebration party. One admiral showed off to another admiral, my wife has achieved this number of results. How many did your family get in Kaohsiung? If possible, I hope that she, my Kaohsiung, will never have the chance to go to the battlefield, even if she has no results in her life. I really don't want to see her get involved in danger. Why do I feel like I lost? The two admirals stood in a dark corner. Hans is so lucky. Although it's just a destroyer, it's so cute. I want it too. The president reminds everyone to keep a low profile recently. I know, so I just said it in front of you. Hey, is that true? I heard that the president was interviewed. A thoughtful admiral stood next to a young girl. Thank you so much. If it weren't for your words and without your help, my Salt Lake City might have sunk. If you don't want to ask for a thank you gift, I won't give it. But please allow me to entertain you well, so if you have the opportunity, you must come to our guard mansion and stay for a few days. The girl obviously saw through the admiral's trick, and she casually said, I will definitely go if I have time. Here is another admiral who deserves to be blown away. Sugu looked at AI. I was also attending a party, and then I heard someone say that there are many kanji girls at the shrine in Shiratori County, such as Ise Hinata, Fubuki Shirayuki, etc., so I suspected everyone. Compared to how he used to sing and dance and be full of energy, Aoba is now quiet and peaceful. She sat with her hands between her legs and listened to Sugu's explanation. They are in Shiratori County. I have heard of that shrine before and almost went there, but in the end I didn't go. I originally arrived at Crane City, bought a ferry ticket and was about to return to the tutelage, but the cruise ship couldn't sail. After waiting for 2 days, it still didn't work, so I decided to go to the ship girl branch to ask, and then came over. That's it? Kingyeking, judging from the audience's performance, your performance is really good. It's amazing, a popular idol. Sugu didn't mind the compliment. In fact, he told the truth. Although it was not like in the concert, where everyone waved light sticks and shouted loudly, there were still many people cheering, and everyone was fascinated to watch and listen. It's nothing special. King Yi held a cup of coke and shook his legs slightly, looking absent-minded. I have already given up, maybe one day I lose my pursuit, and things are not so unpredictable. When you return to the Tutelary mansion. Sugu looked at Ai. Although she had no enthusiasm and was quite cold compared to Mutsu, he was not worried that she would not return to the Tutelary mansion. Even if you say you don't want to go back, it's definitely just a lie. It was the affection between each of the ship girls that made him feel that he would never let them down. He thought for a while and said something that everyone liked. Let me think about it. We can hold a party during the Chinese New Year this year. You and Quincy have a song battle. Sugu held the back of his head with his hands, thinking that the town guard mansion had held several performances over the years. One by one, they performed on stage, singing, dancing or whatever. Alaskan guitarist, Guam keyboardist, Belfast's bagpipes are melodious, Unicorn's harp is ethereal. It's surprising and incomprehensible that Royal Oak can use clarinet to play the BGM in the game, whether it's a miracle or a miracle. There are many oaths, combat deployments, etc. Every time I listen to them, I feel a little confused. I can't tell the difference between the past and the present, reality and fantasy. It has to be said that the reputation of the head maid is a bit too much. Even if she is equally good at singing, although she is not at the top level, she is still above average, which is better than many people in the town hall. It was as if Lexington was silent and Saratoga was in tears. Although it had nothing to do with her, she repeatedly exclaimed invincible. However, this kind of performance lacks a bit of tit-for-tat confrontation and is not that interesting. Have that idiot Kun, Cao Kun, and Leek Kun return to the guardhouse. Sugu keenly saw King Yi's eyebrows twitching and heard the girl's pretending to be nonchalant voice. Of course, Sugu knew the relationship between King Yi and Quincy. It could be said that they were destined enemies. So I deliberately elaborated on it. For example, Quincy was originally performing at the front line base and in each garrison. She is pretty and cute, sings well, has countless fans, and receives many gifts and postcards every time. She is truly an idol. She? Just her. King Yi suddenly became more talkative. Blue is the color of fools. Don't lie to me, Admiral, she is an idiot and can sing? Is she tone deaf? Can she really not sing out of tune? Her memory, do you remember the lyrics? Don't you forget the words halfway through singing and then hum on the stage? You don't write the lyrics on your hand, right? Then you just take a look at them when you forget. You're wrong. Quincy sings very nicely. He doesn't lose tune, doesn't forget the lyrics, and can't find any fault. Sugu thought to himself, although Quincy only knows a few songs. I usually think of some song and sing it in front of Guam, and she learns it. No matter how you teach Quincy, she can't learn it at all, but the little girls around her have learned it. Aoba said, being an idol is not simple. You must not only be able to sing, but you must also be able to dance at least a little. She definitely doesn't know how to do waltz, tango, ballet, etc. Sugu thought of Richelieu, her soft waist, and smooth golden hair, so she had the chance to get married. Alas, things are becoming more and more decadent now, and everyone wants to get married. But when singing, there are still not many problems if you just dance casually. Even so. AI paused, singing battle, she laughed disdainfully. Isn't it difficult to defeat that idiot at all? He said word by word, not at all. Sugu glanced at King Yi and he laughed. He remembered the lines for Aoba's red and white idol battle costume change. The goal is to defeat Quincy. No, totally wrong, that's how it should be, the goal is to push it to Quincy. He tried his best to imagine such a scene. When King Yi defeated Quincy in the song battle and Quincy sat on the ground because of the failure, King Yi took Quincy's hand and pulled her up, and then stopped her waist. Leaned over and kissed her. Aoba's eyes were full of expression, while Quincy's expression was full of confusion. Admiral, do you know, Mutsu interrupted at this time, let me tell you, Aoba's room is covered with Quincy cartoons, and there are Quincy pendants on her keychain. Aoba looked at Mutsu, her eyes suddenly became sharp, is there any? Take out your keys, Mutsu said. Sugu was very interested. Kinyi glanced at him and said angrily, what are you looking at? As an admiral, you didn't say anything. You left without authorization for so long and only came back now. You haven't fulfilled the responsibilities of an admiral at all. Go on, treat us like you did before. Let me tell you, I'm not afraid of you. At worst, I'll just leave. Now I won't be as stupid as before. Well, how do you say that, June? If the ruler treats his ministers like his limbs, then his ministers will regard him as his heart. If his ministers regard his ministers as dogs and horses, his ministers will regard him as a fellow countryman. If his ministers regard his ministers as earth and mustard, then his ministers will regard him as a bandit. Sugu thought to himself, it's incredible, every classical Chinese text is so powerful. Mutsu said, AI, please don't change the subject and take out your keychain. Kinyi touched his red suspender skirt and said, I don't have pockets in this dress. I keep the key at home. If you want to take a look, I'll show it to you when I get back. Mutsu said, don't lie. How can you get home without the key? Just stand downstairs and ask Kinyagaza to open the door. Isn't it always like this before? Aoba said, that idiot Quincy actually said that I like her. She is the one I hate the most. I didn't say you liked her, why are you so excited? Mutsu nodded meaningfully. At the same time, Sugu felt a little discouraged, and indeed a little disappointed. Obviously he is the admiral, and the beliefs, lighthouses, beacons, and flags of everyone in the garrison. Of course, everyone should surround him and unite around him. Every day, every night, every moment, the admiral is long and the admiral is short. What did you eat today and what did the admiral do today? So, why does this happen? Unexpectedly, he is completely inferior to Quincy. They actually don't want to come. After talking for a while, everyone was ready to leave. Mutsu and Aoba also want to meet Ayanamai and others. After all, they are sisters from the tutelage and they belong to the same Japanese family. Sugu also wanted to go see Ili. Since he had time, if he didn't wait until tomorrow, he didn't know if it would give people the impression of neglect. Where is Nagato? Mutsu wanted to say hello to Nagato before leaving. I'm leaving first. Meet at the door. Kinyi also wanted to go backstage to get something, like a handbag or something. There is nothing wrong with the clothes, but the wings behind my back must be removed, otherwise it will be too strange to walk on the street. When Sugu and Fuzu went to find Changchun separately, he suddenly felt a tap on his shoulder and turned around to see Naoto Nohara. In fact, I was originally wondering why he didn't show up, but now he finally came. It was just a few encounters, and there was absolutely nothing ambiguous about showing off the boat. Even old friends, like Mu Chang, will never show mercy. You, and those two. Sugu pretended not to understand, which two? Don't be pretentious. You mean Mutsu, and Aoba? Nohara Naoto nodded. He could see clearly that Mutsu had hugged Sugu's arm just now, and he didn't even mind exposing the infinite scenery on his chest, but it was a pity that he couldn't see it. If it weren't for the admiral, a ship girl would never be able to do such a thing. Even the relationship between the general admiral and the ship's wife cannot do this kind of thing. At least the ship's wife must feel good about the admiral to a certain extent. It's impossible to get pregnant just by looking at it. Sugu laughed, but it's almost the same. How can I put it? Everyone has his own talent, and I have such a talent, 100% salvage the boat. Otherwise, why do you think I have Xianghe Ziwahi and Turpits? The moon and stars are sparse. On the way to the guest house after leaving the celebration party, Mutsu remembered something. Admiral, do you remember? You still owe Ayanami the ring. I'm telling you, don't mention it to everyone, Sugu couldn't help but say. He could finally understand Lingbo's feelings. No matter who it would be difficult to forget about the ring. Indeed, in my impression, Ayanami's character doesn't care about rings that much. She actually doesn't want the ring, Mutsu said. Why don't you give it to me? You should have some moral integrity, Sugu thought to himself, having already agreed, at least the ring on his hand now belongs to Lingbo. Xiao Suifeng, long time no see. Hug. Yuki Kaze said obediently, Miss Mutsu. Ise, Hinata, why don't you listen no matter what I say? Why do you still dress so frumpy and old-fashioned? Mutsu, why did you? Shikinami, you are here, I haven't seen you yet. I met everyone at the reception, and soon the group headed to the izakaya. Although the Kenmei branch is in the suburbs, it didn't take long to arrive because the izakaya is not in the city center. This is it. Mutsu stood at the door of an izakaya, and saw large lanterns hanging on both sides of the door, shining a warm light. Kinyagaza is upstairs. Aoba looked up and saw the light from the second floor window. Mutsu had already opened the door and turned on the light. Sugu followed Ai, opened the door curtain and walked in. He saw the warm yellow light illuminating the small izakaya, which was actually not dark nor bright. The interior decoration is simple and unpretentious, with many hanging lights, and the style of small lanterns is quite unique. There are log pillars, beams, and a solid wood bar. There is a lucky cat on the solid wood bar and neatly arranged drinks. The tatami and futon seats give people a feeling of home. It's been closed for several days, Mutsu said. Why, Consultant Su, aren't you the only one who participated in the battle? Because without me, this izakaya can't operate at all. Mutsu glanced at Aoba. Someone's cooking skills are so bad, no matter what seasonings are put in, he just follows his intuition, but his intuition is not good. So eat when she cooks, she must be careful, and it is normal for her to eat a mouthful of salt. Sugu thought of history. During the Battle of Cape Espanol, the U.S. military focused fire on Aoba, but Aoba intuitively believed that the attacker was a friendly force and used a searchlight to shout, I am Aoba, signal of. Aoba retorted at the time, you're not much better either. Passed through the store and walked up the wooden stairs to the second floor. Sister, Mutsu, are you back? Back, Kinyu responded. Kinyagaza, guess who we brought here? When walking through the aisle, Sugu saw a long, straight black girl turning her head in the living room. In Sugu's impression, Kinyagaza should be a pretty traditional girl because she likes to wear bandages. In addition to the big broken portrait, I remember seeing a picture on the internet. The artist set the picture. She not only had her chest wrapped, but her whole body was wrapped in bandages. However, now she looks quite avant-garde, wearing a white vest and short skirt. Perhaps because the night is a little cold, she wears a green sweatshirt outside. Kinyagaza-san is completely stupid. This was Fubuki's voice.